Wanted to give the PV Vandenberg a little love tonight. It is very old and very tired. It needs so much work. It actually wasn't working, and right before the stream, I took it downstairs and noticed that one of the ground connections was extremely loose. So it is hodgepodge together. You can hear that it breaks up funny. It's got a very strange kind of. It's not all in the distortion, guys. There's something going on with, well, of course, the wiring on the back's in really bad shape, very corroded. And I've been playing at 25.5 scale length now for, when did the string break on the Kramer Night Swine? Probably about a month and a half ago. And this guitar is 24.75. So I've gotten used to the 25.5 again. So when I come down to hit, I'm finding myself going past the notes or not getting quite to the note. And that's just, part of me says, I mean, I love playing different instruments. But if you want to get really precise at being able to come down and, I hate to say it, you almost have to play the exact same instrument, and an instrument that's set up very similar, you know, when you go from instrument to instrument. That way you get that feel, you get that repetition of knowing how far to come down to come down to. You can actually hear also I'm overbending. The 24.75 scale is easier to bend. So I've been playing the 25, so I'm over bending a lot of notes. But this, do you guys have a guitar that just, even though it may not be in the best condition, you know, it's been, as they say, rode hard and put away wet. Do you have one of those guitars? Because for me, this is that guitar. This guitar and my PV Nitro. These two guitars were the ones that I played out live with when I made money playing music. Both of these guitars are beat up. This one probably more so than the Nitro. You can see on the back it's got a lot of road rash all across the body. There's a lot of scratches on the top, dings, dents, chips. The horn here's got a chip missing out of the corner. The neck isn't perfect. There's a big spot on the back of the neck. And you can see the black in the neck. And I'm not much of a sweater, but for whatever reason, the neck on this guitar, not my Nitro, but this one did turn black and grutty right on the end there. And it's just sweat and grunge, and you can see it down here too. When you hold it just right, it's been well loved, and when you run your hand down it, it feels smooth, and then you feel all the dents and imperfections and little tiny marks. Like right here, there's a pretty nasty little mark in the neck, a couple in here. I don't really feel anything down the side of the neck. I was pretty fortunate there. And believe it or not, the frets on this guitar aren't near as bad as my active Nitro. This guitar could definitely do a level and, you know, a crown and level on it. It would be fine. My Nitro, on the other hand, it was played a little more, and I don't think I could crown and level that guitar and make it right. There wouldn't be enough left of the frets. But this is my pride and joy on beat up guitars. And I purchased this guitar. I was looking at a Jackson, and I really couldn't afford the Jackson. They wanted like $1,600 for the Jackson. And this would have been like 90, I'm thinking, maybe 89, because this particular one does not have the Kahler Killer on it. This guitar has the Kahler Spider on it. So this was after the lawsuit with Floyd Rose was done, and Kahler could no longer produce the Kahler Killer. And I didn't know that. When I ordered it, they said it was going to have that on it. But when it showed up, it didn't have it. It was a second production run with the new tremolo. Other than that, that's really the only thing that I wish it had. But the Spider does work well. Now it's pretty, I bent that almost down to the body. Plus the strings on this guitar have got to be at least 1.5 years old. So I've chatted enough. Let me open up the chat window here, guys, and I see Linnell has come in. So it must be something important. Let me,
No, just do you want?
ooh, a monster. I like monsters. Cool. Delivery with a smile. I like it. I'm going to turn this one off. Get that muted. But this is my PV Vandenberg. And you can see the cutaways, the bow cutaways. That's the dead giveaway that it's a Vandenberg, and the offset horn here that kicks way back this way in the body. Some people said it looked kind of peculiar. with the horn kicked back like that, you can see it goes all the way down to the 24th fret. So it has a tremendous amount of access to those frets. They're really nice guitars. If you can find one now, even in this condition with the paint missing off the back of the guitar, all back through here, even in this condition, they go from $1,300 to $1,600. If you find a mint one, they can go from 24 to $3,000. And if you've got a pink one, a little more because the pink is sought after. And then if you have this guitar that has the puzzle on the front, those go from $5,000 to pretty much anything. Because what ended up happening, the guitars were painted black, and then they were sent to a secondary person, and they sanded the clear coat, and they applied the puzzle design on the guitar, and then re-clear coated it. And over the years, the secondary white and clear coat has lost bond on most of them. So they end up with this where the clear coat is separating on the guitar. I've only seen one in the last 2 or 3 years for sale that was mint. And I'm pretty sure that guitar sold on Reverb above $5,000. And that was several years ago. There was one listed, now it doesn't mean it sold. There was one listed last year that had some bubbling underneath the clear coat where it wasn't bonding from the second clear coat. And they were asking $55 for that one. But I never went back to actually see if the guitar sold for that or if he sold it for less. But this is the basic model. At the time, they did not make a neck through when this is bolt-on construction. But in 91 or 92, they did offer a neck through version. But this was the guitar I could afford. I think I paid $1,100, something like that for it. So this was my dream guitar. It still technically is. I would still love to have a Gen 1 pink one. But the headstock's still in good shape. A lot of times that step in the neck will have dents and chips in it, and this one does not. But most of them that you look at, the end of the headstock will have chips. But it's got chips and dents everywhere else. It's just that the neck on this one is pretty much, as far as the finish on the top is good. The back of the neck, you can see the sweat from years of playing. And it doesn't even really feel smooth. It has a grit, sticky feeling to it. One of the saying, could I go back through and clean the guitar up? I could. And then some people say, well, that destroys the value of the guitar. It takes years for a guitar to get this patina. So you don't want to get rid of the patina. Just like the black has a patina, from years and years of playing. It just has a patina to it. So I don't know what you guys think, if you guys have a guitar like that or not. But that's kind of my baby. I don't play it very often anymore. I've got so many other guitars to play. Just like my PV Nitro, I really don't play that one very much anymore. But they really are my favorite guitars.
Jerry's got a question.
Oh, okay. Let me open up the chat a little better so I can see what you guys are chatting about. And she said Jerry has a question. I'm looking for question marks. Where's it at, hon?
It's underneath of curtain scale. It says, speaking of the killer, if just the bridge is available, no bar claw, no spring, can that be pieced together with aftermarket, or is it better to get the whole unit?
I'm trying to find his post. Okay, speaking of the killer, the bridge is available, no bar or claw, no springs. Well, the claw doesn't matter. As far as the bar, I could pull the bar off the Spider and see if it would thread on to the killer. If it's a killer that has the locking mechanism, you might have a problem. They had one where you pushed in the bar and rotated it, and it became fixed. I don't think that ever actually made it to production. I think that was something that after he was already done, they were sitting on the shelves, and then he just sold off stock. As long as the bridge is 100%, you should be good. The bar threads in. When we take a break, someone remind me, I'll go in and get a killer bar and see if it threads onto the spotter. If you don't have the bar, it won't be a big deal. You can go on eBay or something. You'll be able to get a spotter bar, or you can just call Mr. Kaler himself, since it's not a one-off part. He does have some parts on the shelf. He probably has a bar for it. The only thing you will need, the Kaler works on a completely different principle than the Floyd Rose. And I say that because let's pretend this is the cut in the screw on a Floyd Rose, okay? And the post comes down through here. On a Floyd Rose, the bridge fits in here and it rides in the screw, okay? Kalers work in the opposite direction, okay? There's a knife edge, okay? And the thing is designed to encapsulate over the screw. You got to look at a schematic. I don't know if you can see, the screw is way down in the tremolo. See the upper knife edge? Well, that screw, it looks like the knife edge is above the screw. It actually isn't. There's a pocket machined into the bridge that the top of that screw fits into. So it's not just riding in that groove. There's a complete pack, like a pocket that it goes in. When you pull the bridge, you'll see the pocket. So you got to make sure that you put the bridge on the screw properly. That was one of the things when it first come out. People were looking at the Floyd going, oh, it's set up like this. So go to the internet. I'm sure you can get a blown up schematic of it, and it'll actually show you where the bridge hooks into the screw. But you'll see it when the bridge is out. You'll see that pocket, and that screw has to set in that pocket. You can see the screw is down inside there. It's not sticking up like a Floyd. That was another reason why the knife edges didn't wear out on these, because in later production runs, that bottom plate, he put 2 screws on. So you didn't need to mess with the bridge. You could replace the knife edge, the pocket, the piece, and you would pull the piece and just put a new one in with the 2 screws. Okay? If you have a earlier production run, it won't have that. It's all machined into one piece. But you don't have to worry about it. This bridge and my killers have thousands and thousands of hours on them, and I've just never had a problem with them. As far as the claw, any claw will work, any springs work, because it still has the block in the back like a Floyd, where the springs with the pins push down in the block. All that is similar. You're definitely going to need posts and inserts. And I would say 99.9% chance if you call Kaler, they're going to have posts and inserts for a killer. And what you want the upgraded, the larger posts. I have both. My Nitro has the smaller posts, and the posts have bent. Okay, the diameter of the screw wasn't large enough, and over the years of working the bar, it has bent the screw. So I can't adjust or lower my action height. I have to make a full turn with the screw. The reason is since the post is bent, if I try to move the screw this way, it bends. So I can either go push it this way, which rocks the bridge, which technically it's crooked anyway, but I need to do a full 360-degree turn That way the bridge sees the screw in the same spot since it's bent.
He said, so I need to find the correct post and bar if I go that route.
Yeah, I would call Dave Kaler and just ask him. The last time I spoke to him, and I've watched some of their live streams on Rex Lab, I'm pretty sure they still have some parts laying around for that bridge. Just give him a call. And those posts and collars on the second gen killer, I'm pretty sure are the exact same posts that they use on the Spider. I don't think there was any difference as far as the design of the insert and the screw. But give them a call and just find out. I don't know what you found it for. If you want a new one, Jerry, send me an email and I can send you a link of a person that has new old stock. But they're at $450. And that comes with the springs, the claw, the bar, the tremolo. It's everything. The inserts. It's the brand new in the package. It is the silver and black. I have yet to find. The last time I saw new old stock of the black was about 3 years ago, and the guy had posted that he had found these in an old music store. He was in Europe, and I think he said he had 10 or 15 of them, and it didn't last long. Those things flew off the shelf. I think he had one or two gold ones too, but they're no longer there. So sometimes people cleaning up will find them in back storage rooms and stuff like that. When Peavy closed up the shop down in Moretta or wherever it was in Georgia or wherever their main manufacturing place was, they had boxes of them because after the lawsuit they weren't allowed to use those bridges and they had already purchased them. Now I don't know if Dave gave Peavy kickbacks on spiders, but I know when Peavy just had lots, you would bid on lots, like all the pedals that never sold. Peavy made pedals. They didn't go over too well.
He
But
said,
a lot of those were sold off with the Peavy brand. So there are those out there still floating around that was purchased at the auction.
he said, so I'm looking for second gen.
Yeah, you're looking for the second gen screw. If you call Mr. Keller, just tell him you want the upgraded screws and inserts for a 2700 2710 killer bridge. That's what you need. They're all the same. The only difference in the 2700, what I have, okay, and the 2710 had the bigger posts. Then when they upgraded the 2710, they went to the killer and they changed the back piece, the threaded knob. Mine have like straight knurling. It's just a straight machined line, okay, that you grab hold of. And what they did is they made that larger and made a crosshatch knurling on it so you could put your fingers on it and you could turn it better. I never had problem with either one of mine as far as locking it because the only time you turn that is when you put screws on it. So I never had a problem with grip back there anyway. To my knowledge, that's the only difference when they badged it a killer. And there's a lot of confusion because I've talked to them on the live stream, and the 2700 and 2710 and the killer. So just make sure that maybe you have a photo of it. But if it's a true killer, it's the same as the 2700 and 2710 as far as the post and screws. If you got one, they're great bridges. It's my favorite bridge. Second favorite bridge, I would probably say, is the Spider over the Floyd, just simply because of the way the knife edges are made and the way the bridge feels.
Jerry,
And I'm getting used to the Floyds.
Jerry said, so the bridge is the same?
The bridge is pretty much exactly the same. Now, if Mr. Kaler made changes inside, I'm unaware of it. But I can't tell the difference between my killer and my 2700. The only visible differences I see in them is the posts and the bar, the threaded screw that goes through the back that locks the string on the saddle. One's knurled, like a machine knurled, crosshatched, and one is machined with straight lines, just with grooves on it.
He said he'll get
Yeah, that's the only thing that I see in them. Now they may have beefed up the block in the back on the killer. Like I said, I know some of them you could rotate the bar and it would lock it, turn it into a fixed bridge. But I'm pretty sure that it was all done. The machining was done, and he was going to release it on the next one. And after the lawsuit, and he couldn't make the bridges, I think he just sold those mechanisms as upgrade parts for what was already out there, to my knowledge. Now I know the Spider that I have, I can do that. I can modify the bridge and put those parts on it and make it a fixed bridge and a tremolo all in one. I just never did. I know some people do that. And like I said, Rex Labs, their channel, I'm pretty sure it's Rex Labs. I don't know if he puts in the bottom in his descriptions what the live stream's about, but they've spoke about that bridge multiple times on that channel. And Rex works for Dave now, so that's direct source information. You really can't beat the information Rex has because he works there now. And if you go back and you look at our video from like 2 years ago, he wasn't working there. I think he became friends with Mr. Kaler and telling him, look, you need more internet presence. And I think after he was there a little while, him and Mr. Kaler hit it off, and now he's an employee. That's kind of how I understand it. I could be completely wrong. I got one email from Rex, and that's it. And I spoke to Mr. Kaler on the phone many years ago about parts. So it's just my experiences over the years with them. I would call him, I don't know, once every 2 or 3 years. I'd lose a screw or, lose the something, you know. But what I like about them, on the Killer, you can change the spacing. If you look at how the bridge is designed, the saddles are actually set inside two raised corners on the bridge. So you can move the saddles all the way to this side of the bridge, all the way to this side of the bridge, or you can separate the saddles. They don't need to touch. You can put a 32nd or a 64th. You could probably put up to a 1/16 of an inch gap between the saddles and increase your string width at the base of the bridge. It was a really cool design. It really was. And you don't need shims to change your radius. There's two screws under each saddle that access from the back, and you can raise and lower the saddle this way. And then there are screws that change the intonation this way, and then there's two screws that change the saddle direction. It's unbelievable. But there's a lot of little tiny parts in there, and that's why Dave says it's too many parts, and it's too complex to manufacture in today's world and make money. And that's why they're there. They want to make money. And how many people want to spend? I think on the live stream that I chatted in, if you go back, you'll see this channel chatting in a couple of the live streams. I'm pretty sure Mr. Kaler said he would have to be at like $750 to $800 and some dollars to be able to make money manufacturing that bridge. And he just didn't feel that there would be enough interest at that price point to build that bridge.
Jupe said, Avery, wait till you finish my guitar before you lose all your screws.
Well, in that case, she would probably tell you I lost those years ago. All my rocks up here broke my marbles. They're rattling around. I'm going to take these things off because, again, my ears are like catching on fire. I keep forgetting that I'm wearing those, and I only need them when I'm playing the guitar. So what did you plan on putting this in, Jerry? Because the route for a Kaler 2700 is not like the route on a Floyd Rose. The post spacing is different. So if you were thinking about pulling a Floyd and sticking a Kaler in, you're going to have some issues. You're going to have to plug the existing holes for the Floyd Rose insert and make sure that you use like a Gorilla Glue, a urethane glue. Urethane glues expand, so it's going to foam up, but then you have to level that off, and then you're going to have to re-drill the guitar Now the Floyd Rose, the offset from the fulcrum to the saddle is a little different too. So you're going to move the hole towards, or I don't know if it goes towards the neck. You'll have to look at the spacing from the fulcrum back to the saddles. And that's pretty easy. You want to move one saddle as far forward as you can and one saddle back as far as you can. And before you remove the Floyd, set one of the saddles in the center position and measure from the neck to the center of the saddle. Okay? That's center. That means you can still go forward, you can still go back. Then do the exact same thing. If that saddle's in the center, that's where the center of the Kaler saddle needs to be. And then you can determine the new location for the insert. But I know it's not like a Floyd.
Jerry said, okay, never mind, too much work.
Yeah, it's not a direct replacement, Jerry. Before you buy one, you can't just swap the posts and make it work. That's why a lot of people go to the Goth, because the Goth spacing on the posts are just like the Floyd. Dave did it for a reason. He wanted his product to be different, and he didn't want other people copying it. So everything's a little different on the Kaler. The route's different. I don't know if you can see the route on this one or not. Yeah. The route and pocket on the guitar is different as well. See the angle of the bridge right here? Let me see if I can. This angle right here and right here, right where my finger is, Floyd's don't have that. And that has to be routed out. And the pocket in here, I don't think the offset from the fulcrum back to the part that goes through the body is the same. I mean, it can be done. I'm pretty sure if you go to Rex Lab's channel, I'm pretty sure he built a guitar here in the last year or two. And I don't know if that was a clean route or they based that off a pre-routed guitar. You would have to go back and look. But I know that he put one of the new systems in one of his guitars and they did some rerouting or fresh routing. I just can't remember which one they did. But the route is completely different. Something else, the posts go in the route. Look at where the posts are. And notice the posts, the insert and post on the bridge is inside the route. So you don't have two posts and then the route starts. The route comes up, it's like a big swimming pool route, and the two posts are inside the route. So the whole base of the tremolo is down in the body. Now this is a Spider, but the 2700 is still routed very, very similarly. I have several in there, but it's not a direct drop in. What it was, Jupe, the Kaler was so far superior. Okay, it was better because with the Floyd, you can't move the saddles out. Okay, the string spacing between the E and the E on the Floyd is fixed. You can't change it. On the Kaler, you can. Okay, on a Floyd Rose, you have to tell them what the radius is. I think they've made like 3 different radius saddles, like different heights. And what it is, it's a spec from the bottom part of the saddle up to the radius where the string goes over. So they make like 3, no, it's actually probably make 6 different size saddles. So between all 6 different sizes, they can change the radius. But you still need shims. And it's extra machining. Okay, so what Mr. Kaler did is he made a saddle that sat in a groove with screws that went through the base plate. Okay, that captured it. So you got 2 screws on the bottom of the saddle that come down and hit the base plate. And then a screw that comes through the base plate into the bottom that sucks it down. That pulls it down. That screw also not only pulls the saddle down, but holds it from moving back and forth for your intonation. So it serves 2 purposes. It is a pain in the butt because the 2 screws that adjust the saddle height, well, you can't get to those because of the base plate. So you got to loosen the intonation screw that holds the saddle, pull the saddle, make your adjustment, set the saddle back in the bridge, and put your screw in it. That's why it's always best to get very close to your string action height before you set the intonation, because that one screw does both. It's locking the saddle down on top of the two legs, and it's also holding your intonation. And then there's grooves in the plate, okay, that hold the saddle mechanism, and that allows the saddles to move from the E to the high E and separate the saddles to get a wider. It was just a superior design. And how Floyd Rose got away with it, they said it was a fulcrum base, and he had which I disagree, because technically the old fender bridge with 6 screws, that's technically a fulcrum base tremolo. It has a screw and the base plate is moving on those screws, so it acts as a fulcrum. The only one that doesn't do that are the cam base bridges, like a Gigsby. So technically, Gigsby could have come back from the past and said, Mr. Kaler, you can't use a tremolo with a cam. We invented that. That's basically how a Gigsby works. It's an ellipse cam that moves back and forth, and it changes the tension on the screw. So I don't really know how Floyd Rose won that lawsuit. I really don't. And then some people say it's because originally Kaler had their lock nut back here. You still had a nut, and then you'd go over the nut to the locking nut, okay? Then Kaler moved the locking nut to here and put the nut in the locking nut, just like a Floyd, okay? And some people say, oh no, the lawsuit was about the locking nut. Well, if that was the case, how come he couldn't make the bridge anymore? If it was because they moved the locking nut from back behind the nut and eliminated the nut and moved the locker and put the locker and the nut together, that had nothing to do with the tremolo. That was the locking mechanism at the top. So I've heard so many different things. And then if you watch Rex's channel, Dave is very vague on it. He's actually quite polite. I don't think, it's been so many years. He doesn't want to say anything bad about Floyd Rose. I think they've worked it out now. Could he build the bridge now? Yes. The statute of limitations on those designs are so old, he could do it. But again, no one's going to pay that price point. But it was pretty poopy of Floyd Rose to do what they did. They didn't go after Ibanez. When Ibanez had the Roadstar, it was a fulcrum-based tremolo with fine tuners on the back. They didn't go after Ibanez. There was never anything said to Ibanez. Now, the Wonder Bar, I'm not too sure. I think the Wonder Bar was more of a cam base tremolo. If anyone knows, they can post. I think the Wonder Bar was more of a cam base tremolo. But that's just how it was back then. And what's really funny is this was right at the time where Floyd Rose was breaking away from Kramer, because Kramer was the only guitar that you could get with a Floyd Rose. Then Floyd wanted to outsource to other guitars. So this was happening at the exact same time. Kaler had that market. Do you see what I'm saying? Kaler had Charvel and all these other companies, because the Floyd Rose was only on Kramer's. That's the only place. That was another reason why people are, I want a Floyd Rose plate. Then you got to get a Kramer. So I think it was about 87, 88 before you could get a Floyd. It might have been as early as 85. I don't know. But I know Kramer was the original source for Floyd Rose. You couldn't get anywhere else. That's how I understood it. But Kaler had all these other companies, that they were installing Kaler bridges on the guitar. It could have been something as simple as Floyd Rose wanted part of that market. I don't know. Pawn shop sales will skyrocket. I was just looking at Birdman's. I don't know. I just happened to look over at the chat, so I'm a little lost,
He
guys.
said, "Hey guys, do you think that used guitars might sell better with the tariffs in place since they can't tariff guitars already here, correct?"
Uh, everyone keeps talking about the tariffs. At some point, companies, most of the stuff we play are imports. So, will prices go up? I think they will. Should prices go up? There's a side of me, guys, I like cheap stuff. But there's also a side of me that says the stuff is too cheap. It is. We've really gotten used to cheap amps. I know what y'all are thinking. Oh, amps aren't cheap. Guitars aren't cheap. I remember being 16 and paying $600 for a decent instrument. That was that many years ago. Now we look at $500, and if it's not a great instrument or a really good instrument, we're like, you know. And this is 30 years later. So that $500 30 years ago would be equivalent to $3,500 now, maybe $3,000. I don't know. It's got to be more than 500. So all this outsourcing has taken those jobs out of the U.S. Peavey was one of the last companies, and I know they did it in a horrible way because other companies did it and to compete. So we've had this price that's kind of stayed even because to keep that price even, they've been outsourcing. And that's why a lot of times, even I do it, I look at a Gibson, it's like, can I pay $3,000 for a standard Les Paul? Is it worth it? Is that Les Paul worth that? If I go back and I think how when I was 16, what $500 paid and the difference in currency, yes, all day long. That Les Paul is just as good or better as that Ibanez Roadstar that I played. In today's money, it would be about the same. So I think we've kind of, and I'm one to say I review a lot of Fireflies. So if Firefly prices go up, if they double, okay, does the product warranty that? In Americans' eyes, I would say no. So what's Firefly going to have to do? They're going to have to build a better guitar at that price point because we have gotten so used to it, if that makes sense. But that's going to push everything else up too. Once Firefly is 400, the guitars that we're saying we feel are great bang for the bucks, great good pickups, a decent neck, decent tuners. If that puts you in the $700 to $1,200 range, all that stuff's going to go up too. I don't think it'll last, guys. It just has to rebalance, if that makes sense. We didn't really see too much the first time around, okay? Is there going to be a shift? Sure. There are certain things that just don't make sense. Go into your local convenience store and look at a candy bar. It's like $3.50 or $4 for a candy bar. For a candy bar. If you want a drink, they're $2.50 now for a 16-ounce drink. Sometimes $3 for a Coke. But the price of what we've been doing has stayed relatively consistent over the last, 15 years? I mean, there hasn't been an adjustment, okay? And there's certain things that have just went through the roof, like automobiles. And then other things have just leveled off, like housing, okay? Housing, as far as the production end, has not increased to match the raise in salaries and stuff, if that makes sense. So I think there will be a reset. What's going to happen with that reset, I have no idea. But I know looking across the field at what guitars cost, what a drink costs, what a candy bar costs, what a house costs, what a car costs, if you look at the components and how long it takes to make something, nothing makes sense. The pricing market and retail market makes no sense when you look at how many parts it takes to make something, or where it, where it's made, and it's not just that. It's everything you look at, guys. It's like TVs. TVs were really expensive. Now you can buy a nice TV, in my opinion, pretty darn cheap. So TVs now are cheaper than when I bought a 32 inch. It was called a black tube Sony. It had what's called a black tube in it. I paid more for that 32 inch black tube Sony, okay, than I could get a 75 inch 4K high tech OLD backlit, all the bells and whistles. I paid $2,000 for that 32 inch black tube Sony. Now I could buy something 3 times the size and 3 times better quality for a quarter of the price. That's all I'm saying. So when we start talking about tariffs, we have to understand that's what's going to take place. It's been very unfair. It's been unfair. Okay? It really has. It's been unfair for Fender, all these companies. It hasn't been fair to them. Now, whether or not they skew it the other direction, they probably will. Once they get their toe in the water and they know they can raise the price, they probably will. They'll probably gouge the public. But it's up to us. If Gibson turns around and says now a Les Paul Studio is $5,000 and no one buys it, guess what? Gibson's not going to keep that price there. If Firefly turns around and says, well, due to tariffs, and they don't sell, what do you think Firefly and these Chinese companies are going to do? They're going to go to their government. We can't sell a product. So that government's going to have to work something out. Okay? So we need to we need to wait for that adjustment to happen. It might take a year, it might take 2 years. But in the meantime, I would enjoy what you have. And if you feel the price is worth it, I review guitars. And most guitars, in my opinion, because I look at it if I had to make it, even the so-so guitars we have on the channel, it's still great value for what you're getting. If you really stop and think about it. I just literally finished doing a review today on a guitar that everybody on the internet just poo-pooed over. Oh, it sucks. It's an Indonesian piece of junk. It's this, it's that. No one wants it because I can get the brand under it, the sub brand, for this, just for less money, and it's the same guitar. I watched a lot of videos on it, and very few people could kind of figure out why it was made. I see why it was made. There's a market for it, and I have no issues with the guitar whatsoever. That review should be out on Thursday unless I run into something catastrophic. What was that, honey?
I was just going to say, Devastator said their 65-inch LG OLED was $3,000.
Yeah, but that's 65 inch. I paid $2,000 for a 32 inch that took 2 guys to pick up. And when I say it took 2 guys for a 32 inch TV, you were not picking that thing up by yourself. You wasn't. That thing was stupid heavy. You can probably pick that 65 inch up and just hang it on the wall like a picture frame. And the picture quality is far superior. At that price point at a 65, it has to be extreme resolution with a very fast refresh rate. It's not going to be a 60 hertz or 80 hertz or 120. That's probably going to be a 240 hertz, something really high end. I think the one we just bought, I want to say it's 120 hertz. It's a Pioneer, and it was dirt cheap. It's a 42 inch. What did we pay for that Pioneer? It was under 200, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it was like $180 for a 42-inch Pioneer stereo, backlit, and it's a great TV. The only issue that I have with the TV, sometimes the sound disappears. And I'm like, oh, I hit the button. I'll late because I'll watch it in bed. And I'm like, oh, I hit the remote. And it's not muted. I'm like, oh, the sound went out on my freaking TV. But if I turn the TV off and turn it back on, the sound comes back. So there's something going on. And it just started doing that. It's done it to me twice in the last 2 or 3 months. So we've had the TV for about 2 years. I don't know. It might die next month. I'm sure Pioneer did not build that TV. They just shoved the Pioneer name on it. So I don't know who actually makes it. But I'm just saying that if you look, my Korg M1, I got an Akai right here. Let me switch cameras. This Akai right here. Okay. That's my Akai MPC Key 61. This keyboard was $1,400. I paid $2,500 for my Korg M1 in 92. It might have been 91. This keyboard is so much more powerful than that Korg M1 ever would be. Period. And it was, I think it was 66 keys. So this is a 60. I think the Korg M1 that I had was a 66 or 64 key. I can't remember. But the difference is night and day. Was the Korg state of the art at the time? Yes, it was. Okay. Is this Akai state of the art right now? It's pretty close. There are better keyboards out there if you want to spend $4 or $5 grand. But comparing apples to apples, this Kai is far superior to the M1, okay, and it's less money. It's less money. When I was looking at a keyboard, a new workstation, I figured they were going to be $3 to $5 grand. And when I saw the Akai and everything that it did, I was like, this is stupid. This is a great keyboard for this kind of money. Can you get something cheaper? Sure you can. Are you going to have the sequencer and the workstation abilities that this one has? No, you're not. The MPC line has been around long. If you do a lot of sampling and editing and digital creation, this is probably one of the better keyboards. It's not just an MPC with a keyboard thrown on it. It's a true workstation. But if you're not familiar with that workflow, and you're used to Korg and some of the Yamaha and some of these other manufacturers, it is a different workflow. It's the MPC workflow, so you got to keep that in mind too. Let me go back to the chat. I didn't mean to get off onto a tangent on pricing, but we got to stop. And that brings it to my attention because of the review. I just finished shooting the last part of the review today. And at that price point, I don't understand how companies can do it. I get it. I know it's made in Indonesia, but even if it's made in Indonesia, you got to ship it over here. It has to go to the vendor, and the vendor has to make money, and then Fender needs to make money, and then the manufacturer needs to make money. It's like Epiphone. Epiphone has to bring the guitar over. Well, Epiphone's only getting a little piece of that. Whatever Chinese company over there, if it's Samick or I don't think it's Cord, it's probably Samick making the Epiphone. They have to make money. Okay, they can't sell it at cost, so they're making a little money. Then it has to be shipped over. Epiphone has to get it. They're like, okay, we got to make our mark on it, and there has to be enough left over, enough fat in this guitar to where our distributors can make money on it. So there's always ways around it. That's why you see Axe Effects doesn't sell to distributors and stores. They need that mark. Some people go, oh, they're greedy. They want that 30%. Well, if you have a good product and people will go to your site and purchase it, why wouldn't you sell it for 30% more? The product justifies that price, if that makes sense. Now, if they went out and distributed it, they would lose 30%. That means less money for development, less money for whatever. So that keeps Fractal in business. I know Cortex and Helix and Line 6 and what's the other one? It captures things. They all do it. They all sell to Sweetwater, Guitar Center. So when you buy it from Guitar Center, and let's say it's a Line 6 Helix, it's 30% less, 35% from what Sweetwater. Well, Line 6 wants to make 30%. So take 30% off of that if it's been farmed out. That's basically what you're looking at. It's going to be about that. And then by the time it gets to the end user, us, we're paying that mark. So will the tariffs kind of cheat it? It depends. Maybe the company will have to lower their mark, and then the distributor will have to lower their mark, or they'll just take us all to the bank and we'll all lose.
Vance said a little bit ago, I guess it's Trogley, just did an Epiphone review on a Blueburst, and Firefly just dropped a guitar that looks the same finish. And then they're asking, could it be a factory second?
Probably not. I believe, I don't like talking other channels, but
Epiphone Blueburst review.
I know there's a channel called Fulton Street Beats, and I've watched some of his videos, and I'm pretty sure he had a video out there showing Firefly guitars being produced in the Chibson plant. The Chibson guys have been, producing Les Paul ripoffs for years. Is Firefly made by Chibson or the vendor making Chibson? He seems to think so, and he seems to have pictures showing that. My thing is, not all Fireflies are made by the same vendor. I've noticed 3 different vendor types. And you can tell it in the packaging. Some of the Firefly guitars in the styrofoam sarcophagus, the top is fitted and molded into the bottom piece. And then there's another one where the polystyrene is more like something that you would use in housing. The little beads are much larger. And it's still a sarcophagus that the guitar sits in, but it just has a solid half-inch slab polystyrene top. It does not fit or lock into the bottom piece. It's taped. So there's 2 vendors. And then they have another vendor that bags and boxes. They use cardboard like Squire. So one company's not going to do 2 different packaging things. They're going to package the guitars the same way. And you can tell, and there's differences in the build quality too. My issue with it comes down to, is Firefly like Chibson? Okay, they are copying the guitar, but they're not putting Gibson on it. They're putting Firefly. And there's a little bit of difference in the headstock. There's a little bit of difference in the horn. If you look, some of the Firefly on the LP guitars have a rounded horn. Some of them have a hooked horn. That's 2 different manufacturers. Okay? I don't have a problem with that. My problem is when a company deliberately puts another company's name on the headstock, if that makes sense. Now, I have some tremendous issues with that. Now, if it's something that you're stealing sales on it and you've copied it, I don't know. That's what happens. All these companies had great products. They had a little niche. Maybe they had a pickup and they did it a certain way and it gave the pickup a certain sound. Well, instead of making it here, okay, they sent it to China. Well, to have it be built in China whatever secret sauce or however they were winding it or the gauge or the type of the wire, the bobbin, they had to tell them, this is how you make the pickup. So once they have that information, they can wind that pickup all day long for other companies. And you just don't even know it. Maybe, I don't know if Seymour Duncan does any, import stuff or not. I don't know. But once that company sends that information over there, it's no longer their information. It's not proprietary to Epiphone or Gibson or Fender or whoever it is. It's not proprietary anymore. You've given that away. They have the information. The government over there isn't going to care if they go, hey, our tooling is already set up to make it, so let's make an extra 1,500 of them. Epiphone's already paid for the tooling because they wanted us to make it. And part of the contract was, well, we got to do extra our tools to make this product. Once they have the tooling, it's cheap them to make it. So you got to look at that too. If it's something that similar, they might be using the same tooling. That's something I can't answer, guys. I just know that I have issues with fakes. Companies, even if I know it's a Chibson. Well, then it needs to say Chibson on it. It shouldn't say Gibson. It should say Chibson. And it shouldn't say made on the USA on the back of the headstock when it's coming from China. It shouldn't have a serial number. Now, granted, most of the time they only have 2 or 3 different serial numbers. All the serial numbers are the same on Chibsons. But an unknowing person looking at it, oh yeah, it's like a Gibson. It's got the little serial made in the USA. And unless you're really familiar with the product, I guarantee you if you went out on the street or to a music store and a mother was coming in, hey, my son always wanted a Gibson. And you caught him outside and you said, well, here's a Gibson, here's a Chibson. They both say Gibson. Could that mother distinguish between the two? Probably not. Trogley's show is great. He gives you a bunch of information on that stuff. Yeah, baby?
Kurt said Firefly dropped a bunch of new guitars last night. He said they dropped what he calls a SpongeBob guitar because it's effing square, super ugly.
Yeah, they called that the box guitar. I saw that. I forget, CG or GC sent me a note. I was hoping that he would come to the chat. I sent him a message. He sent me something saying they had just dropped some new FFMNs. And the blue one looks sharp. And it appears in the photos, the way the light hits it, it appears to have an arch top. Okay? So it's a quilt veneer maple top. And it appears to be arch top on an FFM with roasted tiger striped neck. That's what the pictures show. And it shows the new Floyd Rose bridge. They're super cheap, cheaper than the special Floyd Rose bridge that this guitar that I have right here has. And it has some issues, but it's a $50 bridge. And I believe the new price point on that is like $269 before shipping. So you're going to be at $300 on that guitar. So Firefly has definitely went up in price. And you'll see it on SBS too. What's that? Steve Brown Sound? Their prices have went up as well. It's going to happen. These companies can't continue to make these inexpensive products. They can't. When you look at Squier and Jackson that we did, they're quite capable of making a guitar at that price point. They're more capable than Steve Brown Sound or Firefly or Chibson. The reason is, if Jackson calls one of those plants and says, we need 10,000 guitars, who is SAMAC or Court or whatever, which one are they going to cater to? Firefly or SBS that's going to order $2,000 guitars or 10,000 guitars. They're gonna tool up. They want the business. They want to keep that plant running. So they're going to take Jackson, Squier. If Squier thinks that they can sell X of these, they're going to go, if we order 5 grand, what's the price? If we order 10 grand, what's the price? If we order 20,000 of them, but at 3 different colors, what can you do for us? And of course, the more they buy, the cheaper the price comes down. That allows Squire, Jackson, and all these companies to do it. I just saw, is it Taylor? The guitar that's got I'm just going to say it, the really fugly looking headstock. They just did a Japanese guitar. All I could say is, what the? You make it's probably a $6,000 to $12,000 guitar. That's your niche. Okay, are they going to make more money selling a Japanese or a Chinese import? Sure. Will it hurt the other product line? I don't know. It's James Taylor or something like that is the name of the company. It is a really ugly headstock.
I think it's Tyler.
Tyler, maybe it's Tyler, James Tyler. Linnell just yelled in. It just doesn't make any sense to me why they would do that. His whole point is to do custom guitars. So if you want the custom, that allure of a James Tyler, okay, why would you undercut yourself by making a substandard imported guitar? People are like, well, it's not substandard, it's just cheaper. Then you just killed your high-end guitar line. If it's good, and it's as good as his other products and cheaper, who's going to buy the $8,000 and $9,000, $10,000 one? Oh, well, they took this off or they took that off. That means it has to be cheaper. So now you're making your high-end name now has went down a couple steps. It has to. Why do you think Carmen, that designed for Porsche, why he was pushed out of Volkswagen and Porsche? Well, Carmen designed it. Oh, it's a Volkswagen. Exact same concept. When you get that name recognition that company has, why would you undercut years of work to bring an import in just to make a couple extra dollars? Is it because they're shareholders and the shareholders want to make more money? To me, that just makes no sense. I know Paul Reed Smith has had great success with it. Okay, 100%. Paul Reed Smith, the SEs, they're great guitars. Every one I pick up, I'm like, this thing is freaking phenomenal. And it's a third the price of a Core. Is it as nice as the Core? The top isn't quite as nice, but it's a darn nice guitar. It's a really nice guitar. Has it affected his sales? Well, I think it's the S2 line, okay, where it's like 50-50 manufactured. So he has the Core, which is 100% USA made, an hour and 15 minutes from my house, or you've got the S2, and then you've got the SE, which is the import. It seems to be working for Paul, but Paul, even his Cores, for the most part, don't go into the 10 and 12 grand range, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe James Tyler, or whatever the name of the company is, maybe he can make it work. I just don't see, why would you manufacture a guitar and have all the man hours in it and make maybe $1,000 on it when you can bring in and sell more imports and make $700 on the import and do nothing? Just stack them up in your warehouse and sell them. And that's what happens to these companies. They look at their floor, they look at their overhead, they look at all the tooling. Like, I'm making X on this guitar, and I've got all these employees, I got to find the wood, I got to do all this, I got to acclimate it, I got to dry it, then I got to keep the machines up. Now I got to have people in the office to order product to make sure we don't run out. The product needs to come and set for 2 years or a year, whatever their standard is. Why would they do all that when they can make almost as much per unit, okay, with an import? But the advantage to the import is now you're going to sell 2 to 1. So you're going to make more money, and you don't have all those people can go away because you don't need it anymore. You just need a place to store them and house that product for someone to buy it. And I think we see that on a lot of high-end guitars. What happens to these companies? That's, in my opinion, I could be 100% wrong. I think that's what happens. I know because when I was programming CNC machines, a lot of stuff was coming out of Canada. And people were coming to me, well, I can get it from blah, blah, blah in Canada for this price. And I'm sitting there going, I can't program, I can't do all the AutoCAD, the programming, get the product, dry it, mill it, and get it out the door and package it and get it out to the site for that kind of money. It happened every week at the shop. We could not compete with Canada. Just, we couldn't. We couldn't compete. And we had nice machines. And I'm really good with AutoCAD. I'm really good at programming the machines to manufacture the parts. You know, it's just, you got to pay people a wage here where they can afford to live. And with all that being said and everything, it was just, we couldn't compete. So is it better for us to find a manufacturer that is more efficient in the United States and bring the product in? Or find an offshore manufacturer, whether it's Canada, Mexico, wherever it was, and bring that product in and not have all the tooling? And that's how our industry kind of shifted. It just became cheaper and less overhead doing it that way than having people standing behind NC machines and designing and, you know, doing all that work for 5,000 pieces or 10,000 pieces. Send the files to somebody else and let them deal with it. It's called outsourcing, farming it out, whatever you want to call it. Seen it time and time and time and time again. So I don't know what you guys think about that. I know I'm kind of on a rant tonight. I'm sorry, guys. It affects me. It affects me in my business. I don't build guitars, but I work in the wood industry. And I see the change in the wood industry. And it's getting less and less and less every year. We have to produce more and produce it faster for less money. Word is the Mexican Charros are pretty decent. I'm sure they are. The Mexican Fenders are really good guitars too. There's nothing at all wrong with the made in Mexico. Some people claim the MIN Fenders are the ones you want. Don't worry about the Fender American or the custom shop. Just get you a good MIN or MIJ if you can. Most of the Fender Japan are sold over there. It makes no sense. Fender Japan is more Japan, that area. So our Asian import for Fender is Indonesia or Mexico. We don't really see too many made in Japan Fenders anymore. That's kind of, and they have a completely different product line. There's a couple of those Fenders that are made in Japan that they sell over in Japan. I think if they brought over here would be like big sellers. There's a couple of the paint, the finishes. There's different signature models that they have over there. I think if they brought them over, they'd probably be good sellers, but we don't get that product here. I don't know why. I would be curious, this is a small channel. I would be curious maybe one day when we have more, I'll be able to maybe go to NAMM one year and just kind of ask them, hey, why do we not get this product in the United States that you make in Japan? Why is it only sold there and we get the Mexico and the Indonesian product? Does the Indonesia product go to Japan? Is it sold in Mexico? Or is it just for the U.S. market? Is the made in Mexico product, does that go to Japan, Indonesia? Does it go to the UK? What does the UK get? Do they get the made in Japan, made in Indonesia, made in the USA, or made in Mexico? I don't know those things. It'd be easy to find out as far as the UK. There's tons of people in the UK. Hey, what Fender products are in the UK? Do you get the made in Mexico? Can you get the made in Japan ones? I don't know. You can you can get the made in Japan Wolfgangs. Right. Well, that's the EVH. Now I get it. It's all umbrellaed under Fender. Same with like Charvel and Jackson. You know, it's covering those brands. I get it. But is it available in all the markets or just this market or that market? That's the thing. Is availability. And that's something, guys, I don't really pay too much attention to. I hate to say that. Like I got a Kramer here. Uh Inspection just says '05 QC. So I don't know if this Kramer was made in Korea, Indonesia. I've never really looked into it. I know it's an import, and since Kramer's a Gibson product, and Epiphone's made in China, maybe it's China that this Kramer's made. I don't know. I've never really looked into it. It could very well be. Just by the philosophy of Gibson owns it, so that's a sub brand of Gibson, which Epiphone is too. So it would probably be smart for Gibson to go, okay, we've got Kramer, we've got Epiphone. We need a company that's going to make these product lines. And you contact that company and say, well, we got Epiphone. They make these series guitars. We need X amount. We also have Kramer. We need these amount of guitars and these body styles. What would your rate be if we ordered X amount of units across this product line? For Gibson, that most likely makes more sense. It gives them more buying power. I guess provided reverb worldwide, which I believe it is. I don't know, Jerry. You know, when I started this YouTube channel, I started it just to do basic reviews because I got on Amazon and I'm looking at these cheap guitars and everyone's talking about how good they were. And I figured I would order some. And when it's been hit and miss, some have been decent guitars. Some of you guys in the chat have some of the guitars that this channel's reviewed that I worked on or fixed or whatever, and you all have purchased. I think they're good. And we've also reviewed bad ones that were just total awful guitars. That's what started the channel. And what's funny is people have commented in the chats on reviews and stuff like that. The channel's kind of grown. So I don't want to overstep my bounds on stuff that I really don't know. And when you get into stuff like that, where it's made, I never really paid attention. Now, if you want to know how it's manufactured and how the CNC coding and stuff looks on the guitar, I'm really good at that. I'm also work on guitars on the side. I've been working on guitars for 30 some years. Am I the best at it? No. There's always someone going to be better at it. And I always look at, I want to get better, I want to get better, I want to get better. And every guitar that I work on, I strive to do the best I possibly can on it.
Jerry,
And I want to get better.
Jerry White says, is that Kramer's headstock angled?
Yes, it does. The Kramer headstock does have an angle kick to it. So that neck is straight, and you can see that it does back pitch.
Kurt said Kramer high end is made in a factory in Japan.
I can believe that, but they just started doing that. They just started doing that this year.
And Jerry said Squires started in Japan.
Yeah. Well, Squire has a long history. Squire, to my knowledge, made other instruments than guitars, from what I understand. I like Squire products. I really do. I think I've said it 100 times. I can't say how, and it, like I say this in my reviews, sometimes you bond with something, okay? You just bond with that instrument. And I'll put it to you this way. We were just talking about my Vandenberg, okay? Very sought after guitar. This is an original Vandenberg. It's very sought after guitar. I love the way it plays. I might give this guitar to Kurt Inscale in the chat. He might go, oh, this thing is awful. Why do people like this guitar? This is an awful guitar. It could happen. I might give it to Jerry White in the chat and he'll go, oh my gosh, this is the best thing since sliced bread and cheese. That's why there's so many different radius necks, different scale lengths, different fret heights, different fret widths, different bridges, different pickups, different tuners. These manufacturers pick whatever they think is going to work best at the best price point so you buy it. Do they always get it right? No, they don't. But that's what makes it different. And that's what brings me back to that Squire. It's $329 guitar, and there's just something about it for me. When I pick it up, the sound and the way it feels, I like playing it. Is it the best playing instrument I have? No, it isn't. Is it the best sounding instrument I have? No. But there's something about the feel and the sound that that guitar has that creates an experience. And I like that experience. It has something my other guitars don't have. And at that price point, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something completely different that I didn't have to spend $2,000 on. And it does that. Yeah, honey?
Jerry White said they put a string tree on an angled headstock. He's talking about the Kramer.
They did. The reason for that is, okay, sometimes the angle of the Floyd Rose nut, the seat in this nut, won't necessarily be correct to the angle on the back headstock. They may even get the angle on the headstock congruent to the angle on the nut, but the offset of the tuning posts can throw that off. The distance from the back of the nut to the first tuning peg can make that difference too. What's the offset here? So there's a lot of things that come into play. Can you get it right? Once they did the first production run, if they had someone in product development that could go, how far off are we? Do we need to push the tuners that way and increase this distance? Or do we need to add more angle to the headstock? Because you can get it kind of both ways, if that makes sense.
He says the purpose of a string tree on a headstock is to wind the strings in line with the tuners. A string tree on an angled headstock serves no purpose.
It actually, who said that? Jerry? It actually, don't want to, I understand what you're saying, but on a locking nut, okay, what you're trying to achieve is the string angle coming into the nut. It doesn't matter necessarily where this, for all intents and purposes, I could put this over here. What they're trying to do, they're trying to get that string angle coming into the nut, the back part of the seat at the same angle. The reason for it is if the nut is loose and I tune the string to E 440, okay, and the angle coming off of this nut is greater, let's say it's more, it's hard for me to show you. Let's say the angle is more out this way, okay? When I go to tighten that nut, it pushes down on the string, okay? Anytime that string changes position, the pitch increases or decreases. So the back part of this string has to set in that nut, okay? It has to be even. If not, as soon as you tighten this nut, the pitch is going to change. So they put this string tree here to push down on the strings to correct that angle alignment into the nut. Are there guitars out there that they have it right? Yes. The Epiphone Alex license that I reviewed, it changes the pitch just a little bit. I mean, they really got that one right, okay? My Vandenberg here, it's right, there is no string tree on the back side of that nut. When you go to tighten it, it's not perfect. It does change it a little bit. But if you want to get it perfect, and then remember guys, there's everything changes it. Your string gauge changes it. Your string gauge will change. If I design a guitar with 42 to 9s and it's perfect, if someone puts 56 11s on it, it's not going to be perfect anymore. It's not. So the company has to come up with a way of averaging it. And the string tree is the fix. They'll average it for what they think appeals to the person buying that type of instrument. They get it in the ballpark, and then they can adjust it out with this.
He said take the string tree off and there will be no change at all.
If you take the string tree off, there is no change once it's tuned, if that makes sense. But here's what you got to look at. If I take the string tree off of this guitar and I loosen this nut and I tune this string to perfect 440 and I tighten that nut, it's not going to be at 440 anymore. It's not. When you tighten that nut, it's going to push down on the string and it's going to change the tune of the string. The purpose in the string tree is to lower this down to get the string angle congruent to the nut, or a little more depending on the nut. You adjust it up and down until when you tighten this nut, there's no difference in what you tuned the string to. And if you're not familiar with that, get a Floyd Rose bridge with a locking nut, tune it with the locker open, perfect, and lock the string and see if there's any change. If there's a little bit of a change, you know that this pitch coming out of the back here is incorrect to the nut. Manufacturers correct that by putting a string tree here. The problem is most manufacturers never take the time to adjust the string tree properly to where when you tune this, okay, to 440 or 3540, whatever it is, and you tighten this, that there's no change. Raising and lowering this will effectively do that. Once the locker is locked, you're right, it makes no difference. It's only for the convenience of when I set the E and I'm sitting here tuning, okay, I got my E perfect. I put my tool in here and I lock the nut. I hit the E again. It needs to be perfect on the tuner. I'm going to say 60% of the guitars are not going to do that. That's the difference. And like I said, even if you've got a guitar, it doesn't need a string tree, put different gauge strings on it. Go up two gauge difference. If it's got 942s on it, put 56 11s on it. It's not going to be right. If you tune this E to 440 and then you lock it, it's going to shift. So there needs to be, unless you plan on going in and filing out the nut, and then when you do that, now if you ever go back to 42 and 9s, now you're screwed. So this seems to be the quick, easy fix for different string gauges and different angles on the back of it. Oh my gosh, we got a super chat. Thank you so much, Niles. Like I said, start playing around with it. I think Jerry White is the one talking about it. Start playing around with it and you'll notice that there are instances where the string tree is necessary, whether or not the angle and the pitch of the back of the neck is correct. Like I said, I have an Epiphone, it doesn't have a string tree. And with 9 to 42s on it, when you lock the nut, there is very, 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 very little change in the tuning of this string.
He said string trees were designed for strats with no headstock angle.
Get yourself a nice strobe tuner, something that is very, very, very precise, something that you can look at the rotation on, and start playing around with it on some locking guitars. And the string tree was there to compensate a lot of nuts, but now they do it on lockers. And the only reason it's there with a locker, like I said, is when you get the string in tune and you lock the lock, the string needs to stay in same tune. So you use that to adjust the angle coming out of the back of the nut. And then if you don't have a locker, it's just there to get the radius right. And I think it probably causes more problems than it helps on a non-locking guitar, because it's one more thing the string has to ride under. Okay? Just like a string tree. That guitar right there has a string tree, just a single string tree on just, it actually has two string trees. So four strings ride under the string tree. The other two strings don't. Let me grab it. This is a completely different scenario. Here, there is no locking nut. You just have a nut and two string trees. So, as far as locking, you don't have to worry about locking it. This angle isn't going to play too much difference. All they're trying to do is to get the angle of these strings somewhat congruent to one another. That's all they're trying to do. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's the principle behind it. But you'll notice how it's made. Sometimes when you go to tune, it's not the tuner and the nut hanging up. You'll hear a pop. Sometimes it's this right here. If the end of that piece of metal isn't eased right where that string goes in and there's a sharp edge there, it can cause issues. So especially on these cheaper guitars, I tell people take these off and run your Dremel, your polisher, and polish the ends where that string goes through. Make sure that this is deburred and completely smooth for that string to slip and move in there. It's not just the nut at this point. Okay? It can slip between here and here, here and here. You have two possibility places where it can move, where you can have two different tensions. That's just how I see it. I think the last guitar I reviewed had one string tree. I'd have to go back and look at the footage because I'm still working on that one. But string trees like this, yeah, that's what they're for. String trees like I showed you that go all the way across with a locker, that's what it's doing. It's just there to where when you tune all the strings and you lock it, once you lock it, it stays in that tune. It's not there for really any other purpose, because once it's locked, even the tuning pegs are out of the equation. It doesn't matter. String butter. I use this stuff, the Diodario stuff. Let me grab it.
He said he almost put a string butler.
I use a lot of this on the nuts when I service guitars. Does it fix problems? No. You got to get the nut and everything right. Once you get the nut filed right and you put this on it, then it's really going to allow the string to move freely, if that makes sense. I found this stuff works pretty good.
Butler, dear.
Butler.
A string butler.
Yeah. The G string is usually the prune string on most guitars, Kurt. That's what I found. That seems to be the redheaded stepchild of your strings. Taming the G string is always the trick. Someone will have to send me a link on that one. If it's not a lube and it's some kind of hardware. Oh, it's like a string tree for Gibsons. I've seen some of these, what they call roller string trees, and I've only had one guitar with it, and it would literally, the tree come up and it had two little bearings, and they had etched a groove in the bearing. and the string would ride over that bearing. But it looked really weird because it had this round bearing thing shoved on the end. And I know by the time they put the small bearings in there and the erase, it's got to be that large. But it looked really peculiar.
Just so you know, Niles had asked a question while you were talking, but Jerry Dover answered.
Okay.
Just so you know.
All right. As long as Jerry's got it taken care of, we're good.
Penagore says, why the G string though? I've always wondered.
A lot of times it's just the placement of the tuners and the angle coming out of the back of the headstock. That's why some people like what they call straight pull guitar heads. And I don't have anything that's straight pull, but straight pull would be the string keeps going completely straight all the way up into the tuner.
You just got a super chat from Juke.
Oh my gosh, it's super chat night. Thank you so much, Jude. So if you follow this string all the way through, it would go through the locking nut and straight into the tuner. There would be very, very little difference. It's called straight pull.
Skyped you the string butler.
Okay. I need to go to Skype, guys, because Devastator has sent me a thingy about the string butler, and I'll get a first-hand look at it here. I am looking at it. V3 standard black and silver. Well, there's a bunch of different things on this page, Devastator. So the one it pulled up has like two little hooks on the end with a triangle with 4 pins on it. And I see what it's doing. It's riding on the both high E and low E, and that's basically what I'm saying. It makes the Les Paul a straight pull. I could see where that would be extremely efficient. That's a nice design. But it's turning, instead of having that pull that the Les Paul has where the strings are going way out at an angle, it's forcing the strings to go straight, and then it bends the string on a post. That's quite ingenious how they've got that to sit around the posts of the high E and low E. I like that. That's quite cool looking. I've never seen one of those. That's the first time I've seen one of those. That's quite cool.
He said, Niall said exactly. They're just ugly on the guitar. LOL.
Yeah. But if it serves its purpose, that's what really counts. I don't really care. I mean, I think a string tree behind a locking nut is ugly. It's like, why is that there? So it wouldn't really matter to me if that thing was on the back, on the headstock or not. I don't know if I can. Let me see if I can. The puppy dogs now are all barking together. Let me see if I've got that on my main page. I don't. So let me pull that up. I'll do main page. And I'll share the page for everybody else. So hopefully everybody can see the Amazon link that Devastator sent. So that's the picture of the device. And then they've got a picture of it on the headstock here. It's pretty cool. And then type in, guys, if you didn't get to see the images. But that's what I'm seeing here. Now I gotta go back to my main screen. So now you should see me again. And now I gotta get the chat window back up. Cool. Jerry says we can see it. Yeah, I'm kind of new with the OBS thing. It's supposed to show whatever's on my display screen. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. All right, guys, we are at 1 hour and 42 minutes. So I'm going to hit the recess button here and hit the restroom and get something to drink and get a little something to nibble on. And this is something that we do on our long streams. It's just a window that comes up and then everybody goes and takes care of the refreshments, hits the restroom, and then when we come back, we hammer right back into comments, questions, and chat. So be about 5 minute break so everybody can do what they need to do. Guess what? That's the wrong window. So I thought I moved that. Now I think I got the right button. All this bacon talk is making me hungry. I love bacon. I know it's off topic, like they said, but bacon, I like bacon. Bacon, 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 bacon. Let me get the chat back up, guys. Oh, okay. Just so everyone knows, I'm kind of a diabetic. And sometimes my sugar will crash. And I'm a type 1 diabetic. So if my sugar crashes, that means that I've taken too much insulin for the amount of food that I've eaten. So I noticed that I was shaking a little bit. And to fix that shake, again tonight we've got some Jupe juice, the stuff Jupe sent me. So with 5 little thingies in it and the milk, quite a bit of sugar.
Steven's on.
I see Steven has joined the group.
Isn't he the one that was talking about wanting a guitar?
I'm not too sure, to be honest with you, hon. But it's good to have Steven in the group. We just come out of break, Steven, so it may take us a couple minutes to get the chat up and running again and get on a new topic. And like normally, we'll hit a topic and then I completely go out in left field and just run with it. And that's pretty much what you missed at the beginning of the show. We had a couple different topics. We kind of went way out in left field on tangents on. And that's cool. I think everybody enjoyed it. Everybody was kind of joining in and piling on each topic. So it worked well. Right now I'm trying to get my sugar up. And if you watched the last stream, Jupe sent me some coffee stuff. And Linnell's made some of it. So I'm drinking this, trying to get my sugar up. And it is really good. I like that stuff. So what's going to be the next topic as the puppy dogs start carrying on?
That's because Wolfie's barking outside.
Yeah, my other dog's outside barking, and then the dog downstairs is barking because Wolfie's barking. But we'll get back to this guitar. Before the live stream, I plugged it in, and the ground on the volume pot was acting up. So I did like a really quick repair on it. And this is my baby. If you wasn't at the beginning of the stream, this is my PV Vandenberg. And I love this guitar. And it's old and it's beat up, but there's just something about it. Let me get my headphones on here. I'm not going to play too much, guys, because like I said, I need to wait a couple minutes for my sugar to come up. Yeah, in my case, what I ended up doing is I took insulin at dinner, and it seems that I over-calculated my insulin, and there wasn't as much sugar or in the meal that I originally thought. That happens sometimes. Okay, got my Vandenberg plugged in here. I've been wanting to play this guitar for a couple weeks, and I just decided to break out the case and get this old monster out. It's beat up. It's been played and loved a lot, but I still like the guitar. Like I said, I really can't play too much. I'm still kind of, and that's my blood sugar is probably about 40 right now. It's probably not good.
He asked if that's one of your first guitars.
It is. This would have been my first guitar, first real guitar my father bought me was an Ibanez Roadstar 2. And then the first guitar that I purchased for myself was a Gibson Explorer custom shop out of Kalamazoo, Michigan. And I bought that at G&M Music. And I made a lot of payments on that guitar. That was my second guitar. And then the third guitar I bought was a PV Nitro Active. And then about a year and a half after that, I purchased this Vandenberg. And the Vandenberg and my Nitro were my go-to guitars for probably 3 or 4 years. And then I purchased a backup guitar, which was a PV Nitro that was humbucker single. And that guitar didn't get that much use. I still have that guitar. It's pretty much mint, still in the factory case. This is no lie. I doubt if that other PV Nitro has, it may have 15 hours of playtime on it. Whatever it is it's extremely low because it was bought as a backup instrument in case something happened to this guitar or the other Nitro. And nothing really ever happened to these guitars. And sometimes I felt that the HSS setup, sometimes I would get the guitar out just to play a particular song, and I didn't do that very often. It was there in case something happened to the other two guitars. I should probably one night bring that guitar out and play it. It has very few hours on it. This guitar, on the other hand, has a lot of stage abuse on it. It's pretty beat up. You can see there's two big dents in the back there. It's had a lot of love. And that's what it's supposed to be. There's a side of me that once a guitar gets those couple dings and scratches, that's when you can really take the guitar out and enjoy playing it. Because you're not worried about if it gets another scratch or a ding. It already has 50,000 dings and scratches and stuff in it. It's not going to matter if you put one more in it. But when you go and buy a new guitar, like I bought the Epiphone Alex license guitar, the guitar is so pretty and so shiny, I don't want to put a scratch in it. And to my knowledge right now, it doesn't really have one in it. This puppy here is walking around and the one downstairs barks when he walks around. That's what's going on, guys. Steven says he just finished a setup on the IYV LP Special Sunburst P90. It's sweet.
Might get a new tune.
I haven't seen their P90 version. And I hear mixed results with IYV. I ordered one of their guitars to review. I think it was the IP30. It's like their Paul Reed Smith type body style. And I saw it on Amazon and it had P90s in it. And I ordered it. And it kept saying it was here, it was there, it was here. 3 weeks went by, 4 weeks went by. And I finally, Amazon said, do you want to cancel this order? And they didn't really know where it was. And the funny thing of it was, when we canceled it, all of a sudden it appeared in Baltimore. I had already canceled it. And I have yet to see the P90 version of that guitar come back in stock. Now, my YouTube thing says it's having a problem, so I'm going to double check and make sure that we haven't lost the stream. I don't think I have. It's done this before. So I have to go back to YouTube and then hit manage videos. I apologize, guys. I got to go to live and then reconnect to the studio. Hopefully none of it disappeared.
No, it didn't.
Okay.
Well, Niles said he just got kicked.
Yeah, it kicked me out of my own thing, but luckily OBS stays connected. So some people may have been kicked. I know it. I had to go back and relog in.
Kurt got kicked also.
Yep. Yep. That was YouTube, guys.
Devastator said it was still good on his end.
Yep. I don't know why it does. It's 3 or 4 times it's actually done that. Let me get the chat window back up. There it is. It doesn't like you all, Jerry says. That's pretty funny. I'm just waiting on my blood sugar to kick up, guys. I might actually have. She got some of these little things. I love mango. How many people like mango? They're a little freeze dried. You know, it's good for you because it's a fruit instead of just eating like pure sugar. So she got some of these little guys. It's like dried mango. So she did get me some of those.
You got a bit of honey out here too.
And she's got, now my favorite little snack is bit of honey. But that's pretty much all sugar. It's probably not as good for you as the mango.
Yeah, Birdman got booted also.
Birdman got booted too. I'm sorry, guys. That's YouTube. It literally kicked. It said reconnect. So when it does that, I don't know how OBS stays connected. If my screen kicks me, I don't know how it does that. Because on my end, it looks like we lost the stream.
Jerry wants to know if you have enough for everyone.
Of what? A bit of honey or this guy?
Your mango, I think.
I think we're about out of mango. I hate to say that.
Jupe says he loves real mango. He gets them all the time in the summer.
Yeah, this is almost empty. Just a couple pieces left in there.
Steven said IYB is made in Vietnam, same as Wolf Guitars and quite a few others.
Can I have a smoke on? Yeah, I just haven't had the opportunity to order one. I ordered that one, and it never come. And when I canceled the order, that's when it come up that it was in Baltimore. And at that point, I couldn't do anything about it. I don't think I do. Nope, I don't. So, and it was, I don't know if I can find that guitar or not. I don't want to take too much time looking it up. But it was the Paul Reed Smith version with P90s. They also make that guitar with a semi-hollow body that has like the F holes in it. And then they make one with it's like a burst design, and then the black one. So all those have humbuckers, but they made a version of it with P90s.
Jerry
And
said he'll take the Vandenberg in lieu of the mango.
yeah, that's my baby. That guitar will probably never, ever, well, it will never be sold.
Oh, what?
It will never be sold. And it's just like my PV Nitro in there, my active Nitro that I modified. That guitar will just never be sold. There's so much, I think the Troglodyte show talks about it. There's always a story behind a guitar. There's so many stories that I can remember. If I sit and I look at that guitar, I can think of so many nights out playing out with friends and old, bandmates, good, bad, or indifferent. There's a lot of memories there. And when I look at it, it brings those memories back. Sometimes, you lose track of certain things. And then you pick up the guitar and you remember, oh, I remember this night.
Steven says, how old is it?
The Vandenberg is an '89. That's when I purchased it. So it's a second gen because it does not have the Kaler Killer on it. It has a Kaler Spider on it. So it is not a first gen Vandenberg.
Jupe says, Avery, I did type this before the crash, but my Strat has a 3-screw triangle neck plate with a big F engraved in it. Any idea about where made?
No, but Fender is really good with product numbers. You should have a serial number on the back of the neck or on the plate or underneath the back side of the plate. You should be able to call Fender and they can tell you. I do know the 3-screw bridge was a big thing with Fender, but I can't recollect off the top of my head if that makes it a really old one. I'm wanting to say that was something they tried in the 70s with the 3 screws, and they may have tried it earlier and they may have tried it in the 80s, but for some strange reason, I'm thinking 70s that they tried that. If anyone else knows in the chat, go ahead and post something up on it. But yeah, Fender had a 3-screw neck plate. It only had 3 screws holding the neck. We may have to put Wolfdo in the other room. He's investigating everything tonight. But I'm pretty sure the 3-hole one. I'm thinking for some strange reason I'm thinking 70s. I could be completely wrong, Joe. The large headstock is 70s. If it's got the great big headstock, so yeah, that would be a 70s.
He said it's got a big F engraved on the back.
Yeah, well, they did that in later dates too. The big F on the plate, but it had 4 screws. But if you've got the big headstock, like this one here, this is more of a 60s. This is more of the 60s style, okay? And what they did is this piece here goes at a more of an angle. It kicks down more. And this piece here is much larger. It's a much larger headstock.
Yeah, he says it has a large headstock.
Yeah. It's definitely 70s.
Kurt said Fender used 3 screws in 1971.
Yeah, I want to say that was a short-lived thing. It's probably going to add value to the guitar, especially if it has patina, like we were talking about earlier. Some people claim if you clean all that up and it loses value. If you don't plan on selling it, don't worry about it. It's your guitar. Do whatever you want with it. But there are going to be the Fender purists out there that they will just have a fit if you've got a 71 Fender and you put different pickups in it, or if you change the tuning keys, or you do anything at all that isn't factory to that, there's always going to be the purist out there that is going to say something to you about it. And I have one saying to that. It's my guitar. My Vandenberg is pretty much stock. But I definitely want to put a Seymour Duncan JB down at the bridge, and I want to put a DiMarzio in the little single coil spot. I just haven't done it yet. My PV Nitro in there, it's heavily modified. It's what it is. You know, that guitar is an 87 is my Nitro. And I think my other one's an 88, the humbucker single. Yeah, that one's completely stock too. So I have 2 completely stock ones and then one heavily modified one. Ooh, you know what? Something we haven't showed on the live stream. Guys, I took a drive to China. And when I say a drive to China, if I would have known it was that far out in China, I probably wouldn't drove up to buy the guitar. But the PV Active Nitro in 87, 88, and 89 is a very hard guitar to find. You can find them in the passive, okay? And you can find the Nitro 2, but you can't find the Nitro like I like, the one with the pointy headstock. I found one in red, and the guy, he had posted it a couple months prior, and I thought the guitar had sold. And it come back up and he wanted a little less money for it. I sent him another message on it and said, I'm pretty sure I sent the other person a message on it offering a little less money for it. And he said, yeah, I got your original email. I just didn't want to sell it for that. So we kind of met in between what I asked and what he was asking for. Give me 5 seconds, guys, and I'm going to show you something really peculiar. I had already drove. He did. He sent me a ton of pictures of it, and I didn't pick up the problem in the pictures. And after doing some research, PV had a production run that had a problem, and the dealers pretty much had to fix these things any way they could. Evidently, PV didn't take them back, but there was a certain production run that these particular ones went through. And this will actually show you a Kaler killer and why the saddles can move back and forth on it.
Steven says, I want that Firefly Gold Top P90.
Well, I sent a post out, Stephen, now that you mentioned that. If you go to the main page, I made a post thread and it said your name. Hey, reaching out to Stephen about the Gold Top Firefly P90, please email us. I don't know if you got the alert, but that was the only way. If I click on your name in the chat, all it says is block or kick. And I don't want to block you and I don't want to kick you out of the chat. So I was hoping, well, I can click on your page, your YouTube page, but there wasn't any information there to send you an email. But if you go to our main page, you should be able to find our email right there. If not, it's dominionfretworks@gmail.com. Just send me an email about it, and we'll take care of you on it. Let me go in here and try to find this guitar, because now that we were talking about older guitars like that, I want to show you guys what I bought and what I didn't see in the photos until I actually got there and had the guitar in my hand. And I actually found the guitar. I don't regret buying it because it's a very rare guitar, and this one's not beat up like mine. It was played very, very little. Let me go in and grab it real quick. I had to dig it out. Alright, guys. And you can see it has the original PV case. And these cases were bad for breaking on the back side. Let me put this out real quick. My Nitro case, I had to modify the hinges on it. So basically back here, these hinges have little pins that go into the plastic and it bends over. So when you're looking at these cases, this is where the case fails, is on the hinges. And you can see these hinges are quite corroded. But the case itself is in really good shape. So let me open this thing up and hopefully you can get a good bird's eye view of what I purchased here. And this guitar has been here for... When did I get this guitar? About a year and a half ago? About a year and a half ago, and I said I was going to work on this guitar, and I just haven't. But here it is. It's a rare color, and it's a rare guitar. So here is the tremolo bar, and when you want to talk about a bad setup, I'm going to show you what a bad setup looks like. This setup is so bad, it's worse than bad. And this is a 27, this one's a 2700 on this one. This is an all original mint PV Nitro Active. The guitar was never played. He bought the guitar and just never played it. And yes, it has the Kahler Killer, the world's best tremolo. And notice there is no discolorization, nothing on that bridge. It's brand new. These are solid brass bridges, so as you play them, the powder coating wears off here. And the powder coating wears off the screws. This one is mint. Now, for the problem. And this is going to be, everyone needs to look. I'm going to move the mic so I don't want to scratch the guitar. So I want you guys to look at this bridge. I want you to see if there's an issue that you guys see. Okay. Look right here. You see that gap between this saddle and the base plate? Now look at this side. There's no gap. These saddles move back and forth on the bridge. Notice all the saddles are pushed to one side of the bridge. You guys see that? So that's telling me they moved all the saddles this way. All these saddles can move this direction without moving the base plate. You could separate the spacing on them. So that's telling me there's two issues can go on here. Either this neck is set so poorly, okay, that it changed the 2 points here, and this neck needs to move that direction. So I got to loosen the screws and move the neck that direction. But that's a lot.
Rezo says, was it made that way though?
No. My other Nitro, these saddles set dead center in the bridge. But after doing some research, there was a run of these guitars that had a problem with that. Okay. Now I'm looking at this neck pocket right here. And I do see a gap. There is a little bit of a gap there. So when I look at my other Nitro, it fits tight all the way across. What worries me is this gap looks quite consistent. It's a little larger at the bottom than it is at the top, but it's quite consistent. And what this neck needs to do, it needs to move that way. So moving it that way will take the extra gap out of this side. I'm just not seeing that much gap as far as it being out of spec. So I have to loosen the neck. I'm going to try to reset the neck on the guitar, and hopefully I can get these saddles back in the center of the bridge. Does it hurt anything? No. But what it does hurt, okay, now look at the strings to the pickup. Now do you see it? Look at this side of the pickup to this side. There's more pickup past the low E. These saddles need to move, so I need to move the neck on this guitar. Do you remember what I paid for this?
No, I don't remember.
I don't remember what I paid for it. But I'll be honest with you, even with that problem, I know that I can adjust the neck. I know I can get the guitar right. My other one's right. No company is going to change their CNC profile. This guitar was already made. They didn't have a problem. So I want to say the problem with this guitar was from the factory when it was assembled. The neck was not placed on the guitar properly, okay? Or they set the neck based on this improperly assembled Kahler 2700. There could have been a lot of different things that went by. I know the guitar is capable. I have another one just like it, and it does not have those issues. So Peavey was one of the first companies to automate body designs. They used CNCs to cut their bodies and cut their necks. They were one of the first companies to do it. So I know The blanks are good. I may just have to go in here and loosen the screws and move the neck over. And then, well, I know I'm going to have to move the saddles. But you can see it in the pickup.
Prezzo said maybe the bridge was routed too far to the right.
Well, that's what I was just saying. As far as the route of the bridge and the boring routine and the neck pocket, unless they lost the file, what I'm saying is I have the model year before this. PVUs CNCs, okay, for the bodies and necks. They did not have that problem with the neck pocket and the route on the previous year. So unless something happened to the file and they had to rewrite the file, there should be no reason that this neck and body would have an issue. They were already manufacturing it without a problem. So I think what happened here is this bridge, when it was assembled, wasn't assembled right. And they sat all the saddles this way on the bridge. Remember I was saying you can move the saddles this way, and this way. Every direction these saddles can move. So whoever put the bridge together assembled the bridge wrong. They put the bridge in the guitar. They put the low E and the high E on the guitar. They have the screws in the back of the neck loose, and they're moving the neck back and forth. So they got the strings to follow the neck as good as they could based on those saddle locations. And then they tuned it and shipped it. But I have not taken the guitar apart to find out. What my point is, there's no dents, dings, or chips in this guitar. This is an 88. My other one's an 87. This was the last production run of the Kaler Killer. And in red. They made very few red ones. It's like a yellow one. They made very, very few active nitro. When I say very few, let's say, I want to say it was under 50 of a year made in active. There was under 300 of these made total. I do know that.
Prezzo says probably still plays okay, right?
Yeah, it's fine. Actually, I bought this guitar and I never plugged it in to actually see if it works. It's active, so odds are that the battery's no good in it. So let's plug it in and actually see if it needs a battery or see if it actually works.
Kurt said if the bridge works like that, I wouldn't worry too much.
I'm going to say it's going to need a battery. I don't have my headphones on, so I can't tell if it's working or not. I've never put a battery in it. Like, I just brought it home and literally just shoved it in the room. So I have no idea. Yeah, it's going to need a battery because I'm on a high gain channel.
He said you stick the battery out of the
Yep, it needs a battery. Yeah, it should be cranking distortion. And I didn't even tune it. So I bought it this way and it's been sitting in the box in there for a year and a half. So I mean, that in itself is telling you that these Kalers were just phenomenal. Just for a guitar to sit that long in a case, you pull it out and it's still in tune. Well, very close. That's just crazy. But I've never shown this guitar. This is the first time I've actually ever shown it to I probably should. It's probably green already. I don't think I have a screwdriver up here. But at this point, whatever's in there is whatever's in there. I'm gonna have to clean it up anyway. But odds are it's probably green and corroded. There's something going on because I got the volume all the way up, and I am on a distorted channel. And it's got a there's something going on. Like I said, I haven't taken it apart. I just found it, and I know I love these guitars. Probably the best, Peavy's best years, best guitar. This guitar, the Vandenberg, the Peavy Destiny. If you can find a Peavy Destiny, another superior guitar. They made a bunch of different nitros. The nitro you're looking for is the nitro with this headstock.
I'm not sure if Jupe is talking to you or not, but he says how much for that guitar minus any work needed.
For which guitar?
I'm assuming the one in your hand.
Jupe, it took me years to find this guitar. I thought I had one of the only actives. And I looked and looked and looked and looked and looked and looked. When I say that I looked, I mean I looked. And I could not find another PV active, single pickup active, nitro. There's one on Reverb right now for 800 or 900. It's over, I think, in Italy or somewhere over there. It's been on there for a long time. He wants a stupid amount of money to ship it. When these show up, they usually come in at like 750, 800. So I don't know if they're selling for that. I know they show up for a couple weeks and then they disappear. And I've only seen one or two that's in. Well, I've never seen one in this condition. This one's the best one I've ever found.
Jerry said $5,600 plus parts and labor.
And like I said, I got to work on it because there's an issue with the neck set on it. I know I can get it, and I think when I get it, it's going to be a really good example. Looking at it, there are some really fine, like little dings.
Niles said they have a white one for 900 on Reverb.
Yeah. That one on Reverb, the white one, is it sitting like next to a window or something? Or in a chair? If I remember, it's like in a window next to a chair or on a chair next to a window. That one has been on there for a long time. And he wants a stupid amount of money to ship it. I think it's over on the other side of the pond. Is that the one you're talking about, Niles? The one I'm thinking about, it's on the other side of the pond, and it's a lot of money. Yeah, it's the same guitar. The problem is someone might give him 900, because I think that's a pretty nice one when you look at the picture. It's just at 900 plus the shipping, it's just not there. If that the market's not bringing that, the guitar is not bringing that kind of money. And it's not that it's not a great guitar. It's just a lot of people don't know about these guitars. And the people that do know about them hold on to them.
Devastator said he just Skyped you a black one on Reverb for $550.
Black one on Reverb for $550. Let me.
$45 shipping.
Yeah. Now the question is it really black or is it midnight blue?
Well, he Skyped it to you.
Yep. There's one on Reverb for $549 plus $45 shipping. And it doesn't look that bad.
Rezo says, aren't PVs all American made?
These PVs are American made. These were great PVs. So if someone's wanting a nice guitar with a Kaler killer on it, see, look at the pictures, the ones you just sent me, Jupe. The beak.
That was Devastator.
Devastator, the beak, for whatever reason, the Vandenbergs, the Nitros, they get beat up right here. Look at the beak of the guitar. It's like someone ran it into the wall. And that's what I see with all these. Yeah, it's got a big chip. It's been actually touched up at the very end. Here, let me hit share screen, and everyone can see the pictures. Let me hit display screen. So right here, guys, you can see this big chip. That's pretty common on the Nitro. Always look at the headstock. And it's got a chunk missing out of the fingerboard there. Now, granted, guys, keep in mind this guitar's 90, almost 35 years old.
Niall said first fret has a ding as well.
Yeah, did he say first fret?
Yeah.
But this is about what you're going to find. This is going to be, oh, there's a big chip. But I mean, the guitar is 30, well, it was built, what does it say the year on this one? It has to be an 87, 88, or 80. Well, it's got to be a 87 or 88 because it has a killer. And believe it, they only made that bridge for about a year and a half. There's a chip there. This is about what you're going to find. They're going to say is in good condition due to it.
Said, wait, those saddles had the gap too.
Let's go back and look at the saddles. Yeah, there's supposed to be a gap on both sides if they're centered. Let me try to find a picture, a top view of just the bridge. It's hard to tell because you're not directly on top of the bridge. But it appears there's a slight crack right here. But it definitely looks like it's to this side. See, it's not supposed to be that way. These saddles are supposed to be dead center. Whatever gap you have here, you should have the exact same gap on that side. See, he's showing it at an angle. This is the gap. So whatever this gap is right here needs to be exactly the same on that side. If not, the neck isn't setting in the pocket proper to the bridge. But the reason the Kaler was so popular was if you misdrilled the body and the neck, these saddles would move. This saddle will shift. See this little hole right here? That's the machining in the plate. Okay? So that locking screw for the intonation is right here underneath. Now up here, here, and here, there's two screws coming in from underneath this saddle that changes the height of this saddle. And it rests like a conventional saddle on that plate. This screw locks the saddle down. Okay? And notice this is an oblong hole. Okay? Moves back and forth and it's oblong. So you can move this saddle in both directions. It's been a while since I had one apart. So there's a plate underneath here and this whole plate shifts and allows this saddle to move. Plus lock this direction. This is your main block. Your string goes through here, through this main block, in through this cavity. A square piece is the same as this piece. So it's square here that keeps it in track. Once it gets into this, it turns into this round piece, and this is cut at about a 45-degree angle, and it's hollow. And the string passes through it, and this comes up, and it locks that string right here. That's why I was saying last stream, there's no space for this string to slip because it locks right at the point where it goes over the ridge. This is the saddles that I have. Notice it's not a true X knurling, it's just a straight machine piece. On the second gen models, it has an X knurling. where it X's here. And here's another picture. See how that screw sets inside the bridge? See? The top of that screw is hidden by the top section of the bridge. So, I mean, that one's not in bad shape. I mean, you all have to keep in mind the age of these instruments. That's the thing. And black was very, very popular. Black, and like my guitar, everyone thinks mine is black. It's actually not.
Ted came in just to say hi. He said he's beat and he's going to bed.
Okay, Ted.
They just made it back home.
Oh, you've been out running around.
I think he's the one who went to Kentucky, I think.
Oh, you went to Kentucky, Linnell said. That's right. Or something. We're just checking out old PV Nitros. So we let me, before you take off, let me switch things here. You can look at a guitar that I have. Here you go, Ted. This is a guitar I picked up about 1.5 years ago. This is a red PV Active Nitro. This is 87, I think. 87 or, no, 88. My other one's an 87.
He said he did a training in Kentucky.
Training? I need training. Linnell will tell you that. That's bad. I shouldn't say that. Yeah, so we're hunting PVs. And earlier in the chat we were talking about the killer bridges. So sometimes you can find one of these guitars, like I was saying, I know where there's new old stock setting for $450 just for the bridge.
He did training for work.
Oh, that's a bad 4-letter word right there. Training for work. I gotta do the same thing. I get it. Get some rest, man. We'll be doing a review next this coming Thursday. So.
Devastator said Avery needs potty training.
I'm past that, Devastator. I'm on to the depends now. But what I'm saying is, if you can find one of these guitars with the killer, and it's not completely tore up, it's a great guitar, guys. These were the best instruments this company manufactured. It's a shame what happened to them. I would guess it was probably 92, maybe 93, 94 is when PV's quality out of the factory started going downhill. And when they put out the EXP series of PVs, that's when it really started going downhill. They lost the contract with Vandenberg, and then they released the V-Type, which was a much cheaper version of the Vandenberg. At that point, they had already pretty much lost everything. They did have the HPs, with Eddie Van Halen, but that was it. That was the only really quality guitar that stayed quality. Because once Vandenberg left, their Super Strat section kind of died. It just wasn't there anymore. So when I saw this one and the condition it was in, I had to pick it up. Like I said, there's no chips in it. And there's no chips in the beak. It's like brand new. So this was something that I had to pick up. And it's red. I don't know. That's the only red guitar I own.
Ted said he saw one on his local marketplace for $300, but it wasn't active.
Yeah, that's a pretty common. Well, it's still not common, but the active ones are the really, really, really hard ones to find. But there's nothing wrong with the passive ones. The Vandenberg's passive, the PV passive pickups were good pickups. There was nothing in the world wrong with them. It's just I wanted an all original, because I've modified my Nitro years ago, so it's not stock anymore. I wanted to find something that was original, just like it was when I bought mine, And I don't want to modify this. I don't want to change the pickup. Mine's got an EMG 89 in it, and then I routed the body here for a center pickup, and then I drilled this out, and it's got 2 volumes, 2 tones, push pull, so it's heavily modified. This is in stock. You can look at the back grain on the neck. It's very sharp, and it's one piece through here, and of course the very beak is pieced. You can see the seam, but it's one piece back here, so it's not a joined 2-piece neck. But most likely it needs a battery. That's why we're not getting that much out of it. I really need to take the time and work on the guitar. It's been back there for a year and a half, and every time I say I'm going to get to working on it, I don't.
Jupe said, Avery, I'll send you more jupe juice for it.
Have you been looking for one of these, Jupe? Let me go back to the chat.
I think he just wants yours.
I gotta find the chat window, guys. Hold on. I got so many windows open. Here it is.
Jerry says, what's the truss rod access like on that guitar?
The strings here, if you've got to do more than a quarter turn, when you hit the string with the tool, you do have to move the string just a little bit. You got to hit the string and push, then pull out to get it to reinsert back into the nut. That is one of the issues. And all these super strats with the nut that's sit back here, you'll find if you run the tool and you're just touching the string, when you pull the tool out and put it back in so you can go again, you're not going to get it. Okay, so what I found is lean into the next string just a little bit, then pull it out, lean into the top string a little bit, and it works. But you don't need to take the strings off, but you will have to compress the string a little bit, both directions, to get the Allen key to lock into the nut. But it does work. But to be honest with you, I don't think the last time I tuned the truss rod on this Vandenberg or either one of my other nitros, like I said, I just bought this one about a year and a half ago. It was probably 20 some years ago.
He said he was wondering if it was in the heel end of the neck.
Oh no, this is up here up at the top. I don't think any manufacturers at this time had the spoke wheel, and I think most manufacturers had already gotten away from the tuner being down in the neck where you had to pull the neck off to adjust it. I think Fender had already gotten away from that at that point. You see that on a lot of older guitars, and it was a nightmare because you need to adjust the neck with the string tension. So if you had, let's say the neck was bowed out this way and you wanted to put a little more pressure on it, you had to take strings off, take the neck off, and you had to do a guesstimation. You'd turn the truss rod a little bit, reassemble the guitar, put strings on it, and it takes a couple hours for it to readjust. You'd have to look at it and go, oh, I went too far. You had to take everything back apart to put the tool back in the neck because it's down in behind where the body is. You couldn't get to it. So some of the newer guitars now, they route out part of the neck and there's a spoke wheel in there. And you could take just a flat rod in to adjust it. Out of all of them, I like that one the most. I think that's the most convenient with the little spoke wheel here versus the nut up here. Because with the spoke wheel, it's a diameter. And you can get in there, there's so many little holes. Plus the strings, see how far I can separate the strings? Because the nut's nowhere near. So I can put the tool in, I can rotate it, and these strings will deflect out of the way. But up here, the nut is right there. So when the tool comes and hits that string, it doesn't want to move because it's right next to the nut. So you can't get the movement out of the string, if that makes sense. So I prefer the adjustment down here with the spoke wheel, but not the one on the end of the neck. Those things are a nightmare. Let me put this back in the case for a second, guys. Jupe, if you want one, Jupe, I will keep an eye out for one for you. I do have a black passive PV Nitro. It is mint. Humbucker single. I really don't want to sell it because I bought that guitar, new too. But I do see those come up in this area from time to time in pretty decent shape. Trying to find one of these, you might find one next month in really good shape, and it might take you a year or two. Just pay attention to reverb. I found this one on Marketplace, and it was far away. I did a very large where you could change the radius that it looks at.
Birdman's gotta go.
Oh, okay, Birdman. Thank you for coming to the stream, man. I appreciate you coming in and chatting with everybody. It's good to see, the same people each week. So I appreciate you coming and taking time out of your day to come and hang out with us and, just contribute. That's what it's about. But if you're looking for one, Jupe, I can keep my eye out for one. Like I said, some of the passive ones come up from time to time. But the ones with this style headstock, the Vandenberg exact same. It's the exact same headstock. All they did was put a left-handed neck on the special body, but the headstock itself is exactly the same. There's no difference in the headstock. Once they had that program left and right, they say, okay, that's the headstock. We're going to use that for all the Nitros and all the Vandenbergs. And I'm pretty sure, I think the Destinies as well had one. Now, Jupe, if you can find a Destiny, I would love to find a Destiny. The problem, when I find Destinies in this area, they're usually $1,200 to $1,400. They sometimes will bring the same money or just a fraction under the Vandenbergs.
Niles has to go.
Oh, Niles has got to go.
He's got to cure his bacon in the morning.
Oh, that's right.
Pork belly.
Pork belly. I like bacon. You guys were talking about that during the break. I'm sitting there going, man, you guys are making me hungry for bacon. I love bacon. And I'm an Adventist, and we're not supposed to eat bacon. But I love bacon, and I love sausage gravy. So I bend the rules. So I got to have my sausage gravy and bacon. But thank you so much for coming, man, again. But I can't see if Jupe has responded or not.
He said he would just like something 80s with a Kaler.
Well, if you're looking for the killers, you want to stick with the PVs. I think some of the more expensive Charvels did come with the killers, but I think most of the Charvels had the cam-based killers,
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Jerry had told him if he's got money to spend, Charvel Model 6 with a Kaler is a beast.
Yeah, now, Jerry, is the Model 6 Kaler, is that the one with the killer, or is that the cam-base Kaler? Yeah, Kurt says BC Rich. Yeah, BC Rich did a lot of Kaler tremolos. But did they do the killer on the BC Rich, or were they all cam-based? Yeah, Jerry said the early made in Japan Charvels, right, were Kalers, but were they the cam base or were they the fulcrum base? Cam base, yeah. See, PV kind of they had, if you're looking for a killer or a 2700 or a spotter, it's most likely, Charvel did do it, but they didn't make as many as Peavy did.
Pennycore says, have you or anyone in the chat ever played a Charvette? I was looking through an old Charvel/Jackson catalog and saw some in there and had forgotten about it.
You know, Penagore, I did the exact same thing. The woman in there kept saying she wanted a vet. I got her a vet.
Oh.
She opened up the door. I said, there's your vet. She goes, that's a Chevette. I said, it's a vet. Come on. This one's more practical. It's got 4 doors and a 4-side, gets better gas mileage. Insurance is cheaper, but it's a vet. I thought that was funny. Now, Penagore, I've never played a Charvette. I don't remember the Charvette, to be honest with you. Saw them in pictures, never in person.
Curtis Gill said a gunslinger cam. He's talking about the BC Rich.
Jude, I'm not going to say they're not any good. I think they're great tremolos. If you're used to a Floyd Rose, I can already tell you you're going to have to put the heavier springs on it. Because in my opinion, they feel a little softer than a Floyd Rose. But if you like a soft feel, the Kaler Cam is the best at that. It's much smoother. That's the best. It's a smoother, more, I want to say precise because that seems to take it away from the fulcrum base. It's a very smooth and elegant feel, if that makes sense. It reminds you of like the old jazz tremolos. Remember how they kind of floated in the air, but they wouldn't stay in tune? Well, imagine that system that you can't knock out of tune. And that's a Kaler Cam base. It's smooth, it's articulate, and you can get different springs to put underneath of it to give it a firmer feel. It's just, I'm a 2700 fan. I think you should play one, see if you like it. The original war everyone talks about between Kaler and Floyd Rose had nothing to do with the bridges that we're talking about tonight. That war was between the Kaler Cam bridges and the fulcrum-based bridges of Floyd Rose. You either liked one or the other. And that was the whole war. Which one do you like more? And then when Kaler come out with his fulcrum base and pushed it to the next level, that's when Floyd Rose went ape poopy and sued everybody over. Hey, honey, did you bring a lighter in to me?
I did. I gave you one. It's green.
A green one. Ah, there it is.
Kurt said you won't get trim flutter with a stock Kaler without a heavy spring upgrade. I love the cams.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's a smoother, softer feel. If you want trim flutter, I'm not going to lie to you. I would say the way the block is on the Kaler Spider would probably be better at fluttering than the Kaler Killer. Because the Kaler Killer, the block is basically right directly under the point of travel over top of the saddle. Wherein on a Spider there's an offset. So it's going to allow it to have more flop, if that makes sense. More resonance between the string bouncing. The Killer is a more balanced bridge as far as where the block is located to the overpass of the saddle to the fulcrum. So if you want to do fluttering, I would say a Spider or a Steeler. I think the new one's called a Steeler. I would go that way, or do what Kirk is saying, get a cam base and put the stiffer springs on it. And it's going to give you the same feel, but it's still going to have that silkier feel because it's not riding metal on metal like the fulcrum, if that makes sense. It's a cam. So it's riding in this like this, and the string is just going over it. and it's very smooth and elegant. Where the fulcrum, you got two pins, and there's always some kind of metal to metal edge that it's pivoting on. So if you're used to a Floyd Rose, you probably don't even pay attention to it. But once you play a Kaler with a cam, you're going to go, why is this so much smoother feeling? Because there's no metal on metal rubbing going on like that. There's not a point where it's riding in a friction point where it's riding back and forth. It's two little bearings or bushings in there that thing rides on, and it's very smooth.
Steven said Rob Chapman just did a tariff is going to kill all inexpensive guitars to the U.S.
Well, I mean, Rob Chapman can. See, I guess. I don't even know when Chapman, how many distributors in the U.S. Chapman actually has. But Chapman, I think, is doing India now. And if you remember, India is one of the ones that have the highest. If U.S. sends something to India, it's like 150% tariff, U.S. into India. And those are the countries that Trump really went after. He wants fair. You're not going to charge us 150% to come in and sell there. Your product's coming here. We want to be able to send our product there. So I know India was one of the countries that really got smacked hard because he's tired of no U.S. product can go into India. He's trying to level the playing field. And that doesn't matter. We got our... Oh, that's right. Do you want to show them your new toy, honey?
My new toy?
Yeah.
I don't have a new toy.
Yeah, she got a new toy, guys. She don't want to tell you what she got.
Well, I mean, earlier somebody said I hid the Chapman. I said it was just in its comfy, chilling in its comfy case.
Yeah, she got a case for her Chapman.
Devastator asked me if it was the case next to the chair.
Yep, it's right there, guys. She got a case for the Chapman. So, the bag the Chapman was in is on its way to Rhode Island.
Is Chapman doing Virginia to Rhode Island?
Yeah, it could be. But yeah, the bag for the Chapman that we had, we put in the box with Jupe's Firefly. So he's going to have a brand new, it was like 2 weeks old, Gator gig bag. So I put the Gator gig bag in there, and then the guitar and all the goodies. And it's double boxed and foamed. So let me know how that thing comes, because we double boxed it, foamed it, packed it. I mean, I would unpack it outside, because those little foam balls that from the styrene, it looked like someone slaughtered a styrene elephant in the living room here. I had a mess with those little. So you might want to take it out of the box outside and get the little styrene balls off the inner box before you take it inside. Just.
Is it TSA approved? He's asking for Jupe.
Oh, I don't know if his is TSA approved. The gig bag probably isn't. I don't think this one's TSA either.
He was joking.
This one's just regular. Now, the cases I get from my guitar, I always ask for the TSA, and it has nothing to do with checking in at an airport. I like the TSA latch. I like the wide latch that comes up and hooks and then locks down. And you can't get that latch unless you get the TSA latch. I've yet to see a vendor that just makes the big hook latch without it being TSA.
Kurt said, fill the box with great stuff. Expanding foam. Ha ha ha.
Actually, Kurt, that's a great way of shipping guitars. You wrap the guitar in that plastic shrink stuff all the way through. Just make sure it's good and sealed. And they make these things now. It's not spray foam. It's like little plastic pellets. When you put that thing in there, you break it, and you shove it down in the box, and the plastic outer shell will expand, and they turn into like little balloons in the box. And that, yeah, you wrap the guitar, you throw a couple of those in there, you break them, and they expand up, and they take all the extra space out of the box. They work really well. They also use some of those little things in automobile manufacturing. They stick those little poly. It's basically foam. They stick them in the A-pillar trims, and when that car goes through the oven on the bake cycle, it activates the poly styrene, and it expands into foam in the A-pillars to quiet the cars.
Kurt said great stuff with some nasty shit.
Yeah, all anything like that uses the polyurethane. When I talk about Gorilla Glue and I get it all over my hands, that's what the foam is. When they're spray foaming these houses, basically it's Gorilla Glue and water. That's basically what it is. They've just figured out the ratio. They shoot the mist, the moisture, and the glue, and it expands right in the walls. That's pretty much what it is.
Devastator says he uses balloon animals for filling up his packages.
I don't even want to know. Balloon animals. Well, we know when we have the music and gear picnic, Devastator's the designated balloon guy that's going to make all the little farm animals and stuff and put them out up on the tables. We want, now we got to get him trained to make a Les Paul balloon thing and a Strat balloon thing and a V. We got to get him past the animals and make little guitar balloon amateurs that set up on the tables for our meeting. I think that would be funny. I don't even remember what we were talking about. Oh, her case. Let me grab it. I'm going to move this other camera. We're really not using it. So she got a gator case. It's a pretty nice case. How much was this case on?
$100.
It was $100. So, and the problem with Chapman is, a lot of these companies like that, they, especially like we bought that used, so there was no case when we got it. So now you're stuck trying to find a case that's going to fit the guitar. So this is what I call one of the generic cases. The way it's made. But all in all, the guitar fits pretty good in there. So there's the case. And this whole section up here is where you can put strings and your strap and all kinds of stuff. And it fits really well in there. As far as the movement on the body, you can see that. And there's a neck cradle here. And then this part is padded down. So when you push this down, it's leaving, you can see the strings, and I can see the two knobs. So when you close this, it's sandwiching down on the guitar. So I put it in the case and shook it around to make sure it wasn't flying around doing anything. And it come with free candy for the bass player. When she gets in a band, I told her to save that for the bass player. He'll want it. But you can see the little door here. And we got her some new strings. We got her 10 to 52s. And the reason we did that is this guitar has already been set up with that gauge size, with the 52 on the low E. So someone's already cut the nut. So I can't put 9 to 42s on this guitar without changing the nut. So we went right back to the exact same size, because if I put a 42 on this low E, it's going to sound like a sitar.
You went down one. They said it was 11.
Yeah, we went down one on the. This is 11 to uh, 54 is what's on the guitar right now. So we did 10 to 52, and that should be fine. There's not enough difference between the 54 and the 52 and the 11 and the 10. You can go down one, okay, like the 11 and the 10. So I'm hoping that it's going to be okay.
Steven says, does Linnell get an allowance or do you?
Yeah, you know, she doesn't ask for much that isn't a kitchen utensil. So when it comes to stuff like this, it's kind of nice. You know, I always feel bad when she asks for a toaster or a blender or a microwave or a stove. She wants a stove now. So something like this is something that isn't housework or cooking for the family. It's something that she does, you know, that's her time, her playtime. So it's good. It's good that she has that, if that makes
Jerry
sense.
said Linnell gets the check. You figure it out.
Yeah. So again, we went to our local music store, Shandor Music, and at first we didn't think they had a case because the cases they had out on the floor, none of them actually fit at all. And she was looking at a really fancy gig bag. Yeah, the gig bag was $150, and this gig bag was fancy. It had like a hard side.
I can't
Like,
remember who it was made by.
and I can't remember the manufacturer either, but it had like 50,000 pockets on it. It looked, you know how they do tennis shoes with the bright splashes of colors and stripes? This was done the exact same way. It had like blacks, grays, orange. It was really cool looking, really padded, but $150 for a gig bag. Granted, it was fancy, but I can buy a very nice SKB molded case with TSA latches for 175, 180. You know, depending where you get it. So that's kind of pushing it. This price point at $99, I kind of see it. It's the standard, you know, this is going to be 1/4 inch plywood, you know, and it's going to have the plywood side that's wrapped with the padding inside. I don't have an issue at $100 for this style case.
Kurt said I prefer SKB case, but Gator is good also.
I'm an SKB fan too. Most of my cases, when I bring guitars out, they are in SKB cases. I'm a big fan. I don't buy their super high end one, like the ones for my Berettas. They were about 220. It's got the TSA latches. So they got two molded cases. They have the one for about 180. It's a solid case too, and it has the plastic latch. It's not as big as the TSA latch. It's about half the width that comes down and locks. It's probably nothing wrong with that case. I like the one above that one. The milling of the mill of the plastic of the case is a little thicker. You get the nicer latches, and it's molded inside. Then they have one above that that has like the heavy duty bumper corners. The plastic on the case is supposedly like twice as thick as the other ones. It's flight rated for impact, so you can. It's crazy, but it's like $350 for that case. That's salty for a case.
Steven says, has any woman said, I want a guitar case?
Yeah, she said something to me the other week. So when Jupe said he wanted the guitar, we said we would just send the Gator case that they gave us when she bought this guitar. So they gave us a case when we bought the Chapman, the Gator case.
The bag.
You know, well, yeah, the bag, the Gator bag. And she was like, well, I want to get a hard shell case because most of the stuff we have in here is hard shell cases. We can stack them up. And so when Jupe said he wanted that guitar, I was like, well, I'll send the Gator bag that came with her guitar with your guitar, and we'll just pick her up a case for this one. So that's how it all transpired.
Devastator said Avery gets the check, Linnell just cashes it.
it's all in good fun, and like I said, everyone here works, so it doesn't matter. Like I said, she needs a little hobby. She needs something that's not cooking or cleaning or. I mean, she has other hobbies. She does the crossword things and the colored things, with the dragons and stuff.
Don't forget crocheting.
Oh yeah, and I tell you something sexy she does. She sits in that chair and she crochets. I'm telling you what, that is like the bee's knees, and it just turns me on when she sits back over the little crocheter, got the little glasses down on the end of her nose,
Oh, now you're exaggerating.
and she's just crocheting away. Yeah, that's what happens when you get old. But she makes some really nice comforters and quilts.
Hey, Jerry said her waiting on Avery.
Yeah, why not? So this is something different for her to do. She's got a couple different hobbies.
Oh God, Jerry White said crocheting is hot.
Yeah, that's what I tell Linnell. She sits in that chair and I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh, would you stop? I was going to get her some of those little tiny narrow glasses that she can put way down on her cheeks over and just. She says no, she ain't going to do that. But I told her I thought that would be attractive. Yeah, there's the cases. I mean, I know, I've seen some really nice gig bags like the one we saw at Shenandoah. But even at that rate, I just feel more comfortable with a case, like Steven's saying. The case is just, maybe it's because that's what I grew up with, the case, but I like a case. I can take cases and I can literally stack them up, and if they slip, it's in a case. If I take gig bags and I start stacking up a bunch of gig bags, they're going to be at all different angles. It's not going to be solid. Cases, stack them up, put them in the corner. Just make sure that you got the headstock up when you do the cases. Put a little sticker on the case on both sides with an arrow, so you know when you stand it up that the headstock is setting up, that when it's in the case, it's setting on the butt of the guitar. I've seen people and they got it upside down and the headstock's facing the floor, and it's kind of like, be nice. At least put it to where the body's towards the floor. And if it isn't a solid, snug fit, like a contoured body, in this case is open, the body of the guitar is going to sit down on the back side of that case. It's going to be a little bit easier on it.
Jerry said he looked up what he needed to know about pickups. He said string, spacing, short versus long leg, etc.
Yeah, when you get into that, Jerry, there's different spacings of the poles. I know you said that you wanted to talk. We just been on so many different tangents. Every guitar is going to be a little different. And as you move from the bridge to the neck, that changes the spacing. So there's only a couple different spacings, maybe 3 different spacings that most manufacturers use. So the likelihood, like where I like pickups, okay, my Nitro, if you look at where this pickup sets, this pickup really isn't up at the neck, and it's really not in the center position either. So a lot of manufacturers, what they'll do is they'll twist that pickup back and forth to get the poles to align to the strings, especially if they're in kooky locations like this guitar is. Because it's really not a neck pickup and it's really not a center pickup. It's in between the neck and the center. And that was the whole reason Eddie Van Halen shifted his one pickup, was to change the pole alignment to the strings. So you can do that as well. When you start getting into your single coils in the center, you can move it. If you look at my other guitar, my other Peavey, the pickup is actually rotated the opposite direction. I wanted to soften the high pitch of the high E, and I want to brighten the low E. So that pickup actually tilts this way in the guitar. I wanted a softer high E. So it sets almost the back of that pickup is only about a 1/4 inch off the humbucker. But on the high E side, it's a good 3/4 of an inch away from the humbucker. It's like that much. And it really softens out the tone, gives it a really jazz type tone. So you can do that too. But as far as the spacing on the poles, I think I've only seen maybe 3 different spacing sizes. I could be wrong. Maybe manufacturers have all their proprietary spacings listing. But unless it's something kooky, yeah, that's the whole point in moving your pickup back and forth. And you look at some guitars, the string is never in the center of the pole. It'll drift one way or the other. And that's just because of the spacing issue on the back side of the bridge. If you sand all the wood up, it won't warp. Yeah. Another good thing is Stephen, try to keep your house to the exact same or close humidity. We have a big humidifier in this house, and it's set to, I think, 45. And if I look at it, it'll drift between like 42 and 48. It'll move around, but it's shooting for 45. That's what the house is shooting for. And this house stays very consistent with that humidifier. So try to keep your house, the humidity the same, and try to keep, like this house here is oil heat. So when the oil heat cuts on, it's not like a heat pump. The air that comes out of the floor registers is very, very warm. So try to keep your guitars away from that direct air, especially if you've got forced hot air like oil or gas. A heat pump, not too bad, because usually there's only about a 10-degree rise, in a heat pump. So if the house is 70, your heat pump might be shooting out 80, 85-degree air. Some of the new ones are more efficient, but an oil furnace will shoot out 120, 130-degree air. It's hot. Same with gas. So try to keep your guitars away from that change. Like I have a register way back in that corner, and there's one in that corner. So the closest one is this one. Most of my guitars sit here and over there by that amplifier. Or right here by this cabinet here.
Sherry said unless you live in the real south, then you need a dehumidifier.
Yeah, well, ours does both. It's a humidifier and a dehumidifier. It keeps it right within what it says within 2.5 or 3 one way or the other. So if it goes up, it'll start the dehumidifier, and if it gets too dry, it'll add. It does all that automatically. That's why we picked ours up. It's also a filter. So it's got a carbon filter and a regular filter. So it's cleaning the air and humidifying the air. The better units use steam, where it heats the water and then shoots steam out to humidify the air. But like the unit we bought with the filters and humidifier and dehumidifier, it was what, $300?
I think so.
I think it was like $300 for it. When you get into the steam units, then you're in the $800 and $900 units. And for me, if I had, a guitar room and they were all up and I had really wanted to make sure it was right, sure, I might consider buying something like that. But for our needs and the guitars that come and go here, I've never had a problem with the one that we had. And this one's new. It's about 2 years old now. The other one we had lasted for 10 years before, and it was still technically working, but when it cut on, it sounded like somebody was in there just beating it with a hammer. Clang, 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 clang. It was starting to rattle and make these horrible noises. So I figured it was time for a new one. Yes. In the winter here, Juke, when our oil furnace cuts on, that humidifier runs and runs and runs because it is a much drier heat. You're right. But in the summer, with the air conditioning, it'll run too because it's dehumidifying. So that's why we got that one. We don't have to worry about it. It does both. And it does it very effectively.
Jupe said the best heat, in his opinion, is steam radiators.
Devastator says it's already in the 80s there. Had the air on. Oh! You are 100% correct, Jupe. A boiler is the best heat, period. Whether it's forced water or steam. Now, I agree that steam is the best. The problem with steam is a lot of people with radiators have went through, there's a little device on the side of your radiator, and if it's working right, occasionally it'll go psst, it'll shoot steam out in the room. It's alleviating the pressure. You go in some of these old houses and it's got 50,000 coats of paint on it, and you go downstairs and the steam boiler is going ting 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 ting, and you know it's about ready to explode because as water turns to steam, it increases the pressure, so that pressure has to escape. So you look at these old houses that they've painted those things shut, those little air gaps, and it's a pressure relief valve on the side of these steam radiators. If yours isn't shooting out a little steam occasionally, somewhere in the house to even it out, you need to call a boiler guy or a plumber in to look at the system. Make sure your pressure rise isn't too high, because especially a lot of these systems now are getting old. But I think steam is the best. It turns to steam, it floats up naturally. When it cools off, it turns back to water, which flows back down into the pipe into the return of the unit, and it just keeps circulating. And once you get that big cast iron radiator hot, it stays hot. So your boiler, your steam unit may run for 10 or 15 minutes, but you'll get heat out of that radiator for 45 minutes because there's so much mass with the cast iron. So we don't have that. What we have here is an old school Beckett injected oil burner, and it fires back into a brick unit. Once that brick gets hot, then it does the same thing. It's not quite as efficient as like a steam unit. But in this area, forced water's big instead of steam. So you'll have baseboard, and it runs hot water through the baseboard. And if it's not hot water, it's a very thin oil. And the advantage to the oil is once the oil's hot, it just keeps circulating that. The boiler might cut on for 5 minutes every 30 minutes just to keep that oil warm. And then there's little valves that turn it on and off to each room to keep each room, to a certain temperature. But yeah, steam, any type of boiler is best. But like I said, in our case, it dries the house out, so we have to use a humidifier. Yes, exactly. There's a technical name for them, Jupe. I just don't remember. I want to say blow off valve, but that's what's on a water heater. But it's basically a pressure reducing valve. It alleviates the pressure on the line when it exceeds X psi. So instead of blowing the cast iron radiator apart or blowing the sight glass out of the steam radiator, it pops those little valves and allows a little steam in the room.
Steven says a friend of his straightens guitar necks with heat and steam.
Then closes the steam in the radiator and cools the condensers and returns back to the. Exactly. That's what I was saying earlier. It's steam. Once it cools off, it turns back to water and just returns back down through, right back, and just recirculates. It's an ingenious system, and it's old.
And Steven said a friend of his straightens guitar necks with heat and steam.
Well, you can take dents out of bodies with it too. Some of these nitrocellulose. If you're careful, you can add a little steam, and you can take some dings and dents, like little spots in your neck. You can steam it out. But anytime you do that, guys, keep in mind you're introducing moisture into that part of the guitar, and it will need to re-dry. So Just keep that in mind. But a lot of techs do that. You can use steam, and you can use it to clean too. You can get in there and with the steam and really get a good cleaning done. But you can take small dents and stuff like that with the steam. Is it 15 psi? I didn't know what it was. It's been a long time since I did that, anything like that. In this area, Jupe, it's kind of dying. Everyone's going heat pump. So unless you have an older house like the one that I have, now this house was a cheaper house, so it got an injected oil burner where it just shoots flame into like this brick thing. It didn't get the boiler, and it was what they called a gravity fed. And there was just one big hole in the center of the house, and all the heat come out of that hole. There was no return. It just one big center grate, and it was called gravity fed. Of course, hot air rises, so it shot this flame into this big round brick thing and then out the hole, and that's what heated your house. It was really simple. Now we're talking boilers on the Guitar Channel. Where else can you get this kind of info? I'm opening up the chat window. But I think as long as you keep your room, keep your humidity consistent. Mine's a little low. Like I said, I got mine set to about 45. I think if you go 50, that would be perfect. Get yourself one that does both. It humidifies and dehumidifies. Set it. You're going to need a drain where it can pump out to a sink or something. And you will need a cold water source like an ice maker line to it. Plug it in, set it. That's it. Once a month, go down and clean the little filters that are in it. And it will take care of itself. And it'll take care of your guitars for you. It is something that if you're playing guitar and you want to keep your guitars right, fret sprout, drying the necks out from cracking, it definitely helps. Yeah, that's what this house had, Jupe, was a gravity fed. But I will keep my eye out for Jupe for a nitro guitar. And everybody else in the chat, like Jupe said, he's looking for a Kaler 80s guitar. So if people run across one that's in the chat, everyone here kind of knows one another. Keep in mind that Jupe is looking for one. So the next live stream, maybe copy a link and put it in this stream in the bottom down here. Hey, Jupe's looking for an 80s guitar with a Kaler. YouTube won't allow. Devastator and Jerry might be able to put a link. But you can figure out a way. Hey, I found a guitar. And then they can email me the link and I can put the link up. If you guys get a hold of either me, Jerry, or Devastator, or Linnell, let them know, or just send the link directly to Music and Gear at Dominion Fretworks. I'll put the link up for Jupe if you guys find one for him. So he is looking for one. Now I'm going back through the chat, making sure I didn't miss anything. Linnell hasn't come out and yelled at me lately, so that probably means I've done a pretty good job.
Jerry said if you run across a 59 burst, buy it. I'll make payments.
Oh, listen, now I'm like Wells Fargo. Ha! Well, Music and Gear got a new, it's like Music and Wells Fargo. Ha! I am still looking for a true Gibson Les Paul with P90s. And I know it's going to be expensive, but I am looking for one. And everyone knows I'm trying to save money for an Axe FX. Now, I just recently sold a guitar to Devastator, and that money is going to the Axe FX because that's my personal guitar. Now, Jupe just bought a guitar, so that money goes in the pot for buying the next instrument, and then all the super chats go in the pot for buying the next instrument. So I don't know what that's going to be yet. We need to make sure we're going to see how this review works for Shenandoah Music. They were really excited today when I dropped the guitar off. Just so you guys know, they let me take the guitar. Just let me take it home, do a review on it. No money out of my pocket. They had enough faith in me to do that. I don't know if any music store would let anybody do that. So in return, I did find one or two little items with the guitar. I'm a guitar tech, so I made sure that when I returned that guitar, it was as good as I could make it with the restrictions that they put on me. The one owner asked me not to touch the nut. I don't know why. He said, just don't file the nut. I'm like, okay. And it was funny when I dropped off the guitar, he was like, what'd you do? And the one other owner was like, oh, he dressed the frets and polished the frets. And he looked at me and I said, well, you told me I couldn't file on the nut. You know, so they were extremely happy when they saw the guitar, and they pulled a Fender off the floor, the exact same guitar, and set it side by side and felt the difference between the guitar I was returning and the factory one.
You just let the cat out of the bag.
And,
You just let the cat out of the bag.
Oh, I did. I let the cat out of the bag, didn't I? Because I just don't know. Well, everyone knows what it is now, and I'm gonna make sure no one can go back and find out what I said. So I'll erase that part of the stream. And we've got a guy that just joined the chat. I'm so happy that he's here. And I don't even know how you say his name. I always said blah. That's what I always say. Hey, blah, left a comment. Guys, go back and look at my reviews. This man has left some comments that they have always tickled me. And I really appreciate what he's done for the channel in the past by commenting. I believe he called me the McFred-a-lot or something. The guitar inspector, I've been called. I've been called a lot. I just want to say thanks for the comments you put in the channel. I think this is his first time actually coming to the live stream, so it's cool. I like to see that. But yeah, I let the cat out of the bag. But they did bring another one over, and when you're working on guitars, sometimes you lose track of what you started with. And when they brought the factory one over, and I set them side by side, there was a night and day difference in what I had done just in basically 2 hours of work. Well, it was probably 3 hours of work total that I put in the guitar and a set of strings. Complete night and day difference. Now, before anyone says anything, the review comes out on Thursday. I am removing the repair section out of the review, because people tuning in to watch the review, they're not really there to watch a repair or a upgrade. So what I did is I did a demo on the guitar in its stock form with the factory strings and factory setup. The reason I did that is after that I take the neck and the strings off the guitar. And I didn't have another set of Fender strings. So the only way to demo the guitar in its factory set was to demo it. After the demo, then take the neck off the guitar, then take all the electronics out of the guitar to inspect the electronics in the neck pocket. So once I did all that, I had to put new strings on it. Since I changed manufacturers, I had to re-intonate the guitar, because whenever you change manufacturers, it's going to change the intonation a little bit. So I went ahead and re-intonated the guitar and did little teeny weeny little repairs that I found in inspecting the guitar. So when I returned the guitar to them, they were happy to see it. So hopefully they're going to allow me to take another guitar home and we can, well, they already said they've already ordered Jackson USA guitars. Should be in late summer Okay? And they've already said they're going to let me take a Jackson American home. So I think it's about a $3,000 guitar, and they want me to do a review. Oh, Jupe said it's time to hit the hay. Thank you so much, Jupe, for the super chat. Thank you so much. And hopefully, send me an email when your guitar gets to you. I want to make sure that it got to you safely in the gig bag and everything. So it should be there. I don't know. You have the tracking number. I don't know what it says. I'm hoping by Monday or Tuesday it should be there.
I think Tuesday.
I'm hoping. But let me know when you get it. If anyone's just joining, Jupe bought the white ash super strat. So that's on his way to his house. All right, thank you again, Jupe, for coming in, hanging with us. So the review on Thursday will be the factory setup, me tearing the guitar. This is a very detailed review. And then when I reassemble the guitar, I'll bring it back up and plug it back into the amp and do another demo. Now I'm demoing the guitar on the Egnator. Okay, I do run it through the rack mount amp for the high gain stuff, but all the clean and the mid gain stuff is all done with the Egnator. No effect. Well, I'm using the Egnator with the onboard reverb, and that's it. There's no compression, no delay, no. It's just guitar into the Egnator with some reverb. And it, in my opinion, sounds phenomenal. It's a great sounding guitar with that Egnator amp. It just, it sounds phenomenal in my opinion. Now, you all will be the judge. Thursday night we'll watch that video, and hopefully everyone will be here for that. It's been a tremendous amount of work because I only had the guitar for 7 days, so I had to play it, review it, take it apart, put it back together, re-intonate it, clean it back up, and get it back to the store all in 7 days. So it was quite a bit of work. So I don't know if we're going to make it till 12 o'clock again tonight, guys, because my voice is already starting to get hoarse. Just letting everybody know, putting it out there. Oh, back to what I was saying. The reason I'm taking that out, I am going to release that video separate where we take it down to the shop and we do some. I figured it would be a good video on how to repair one fret, how to dress some fret ends, how to set up your action, how to adjust the truss rod, just a general guitar tune-up video. So that one will be coming out hopefully Monday or Tuesday of the following week. And then I actually have Jupe's guitar in the basement right now, his Schecter. And we've got that taped off and working on that. So that's probably going to be in 2 weeks before that video hits. And of course, we still always do the live stuff in between. So there should be some really cool content coming up, guys. Jupe's guitar is probably going to be at least 4 or 5 videos long. There's quite a bit of work on that guitar. Quite a bit of work on that guitar. All right, guys, if you are familiar with the live stream, like I said, my throat is just killing me. If you're familiar, I always put up a window, and that allows the chat to continue to talk, and everyone can, put in their last bit of information. Now, I can technically keep the stream going. With OBS, even though it'll say it ends in 1 minute, technically I still have to end the stream on the YouTube side. But I try to, once I see the timer run out, I do try to end the stream, but it does give you 5 minutes to finish up any conversations and stuff.
Steven said thanks, had a great time, always learned something, bye.
Yep. Thank you, Steven, for coming in. Like I said, you guys can stay and chill out. Sometimes I even come back in and I hit the old chat when you guys hit topics after the live part's done. But I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. And please take, you know, take a little bit of time and think about somebody that you think might be interested in this channel, and maybe, you know, tell them about it. See if we can get more people in the stream. The more people that's here, the more we're sharing information, the more knowledge that can be passed around. And that's really what the stream's about.
Jerry's got to go. Kurt's got to go.
Oh, yep, everybody's taking off. But anyway, I'm gonna put the other window up just so everyone can continue chatting. And again, I want to thank everybody for the super chat. That is super awesome. And before you go, if you would hit the like button, and always if you want to come back and leave a comment down, that helps YouTube push it out. Emojis, like buttons, and comments, guys, help YouTube. And thank you so much. It's great hanging with you guys. I enjoy it so much. And I'll see you guys next Thursday.